لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله.
والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ما بعد. In this case, that's more yeah. The book that the Shaykh rahimahullah that I want to go through is a book of Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah was a scholar of hadith who died in the year 2000, and he has written over 100 plus books and was known to be amongst the most knowledgeable, and some scholars said that he was the most knowledgeable imam in hadith during the past century. He wrote many books in hadith, many books in aqidah, in almost in every single field in Islam when it comes to fiqh, in aqidah, in hadith. He wrote a book in it, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he was known to be very, very serious and very, very strict with timing, to the point where he wouldn't waste much time at all. One time, this is a real life story, one time his office in his house, and I think I mentioned this probably the first few weeks I came here. If we assume that Sheikh Khalil's office was the Sheikh's room, sleeping in his bedroom, and his library was literally this classroom right here. The Sheikh would walk out from his room to go to the library, spend 16 hours in the library every day, and then he started counting the amount of steps that he would walk from his office to that office, or from his room to that office, and then seeing how long it takes him to do so. And then multiplied it by the number of times he does it per day, per week, per month, per year, and realized that it is a lot of time that he wastes just walking from here to there. We're not talking about any driving distance. He called a carpenter and had the carpenter move the door from there right next to his office, right next to his bedroom, so he can walk right out from his bedroom straight to the door. His daughter, she explained that the Shaykh rahimahullah his library was in his house was very large and very tall, so he had to climb in ladders sometimes to grab a few books. She said sometimes I would go in the morning with breakfast and I would leave it for the Shaykh on the table while the Shaykh walks up to find the hadith or something that he's looking for. And she said I would come back during lunchtime, 6-7 hours later with lunch, and the Shaykh would still be standing in the same place, and the food is, it became cold or bad in the same area, not touched, rahimahullah. His seerah, his life story, scholars wrote books in volumes about his seerah that if I were to speak about his seerah and his life story, we would start from now and end at Fajr prayer.
I think my mom.
The book of Salah, he named it صفة صلاة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من التكبير إلى التسليم كأنك تراها. He says that this book he named it the description of the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ as if you see it. From takbir of ihram until the salam as if you've seen it. The original book that he wrote was 3 volumes. It's a very big book. Just about the salah, to show you how depth the salah can get. Then they asked him to summarize it and make it very brief if possible. Then the Shaykh summarized it into a book like this exact book, which has about 190 pages. Then even this, to show you subhanAllah, sometimes how lazy the ummah can be. Even this book, after the Shaykh wrote 3 volumes, people couldn't read it. He summarized it into one volume of 190 pages. People still thought it was big, so he summarized it into the same book, into about 42 pages. And just to cover this book today, it will take us about 3 to 4 hours, but I'll try to go through it very, very fast. And it's not the 3-4 hours that will cover the book, but it's the amount of masail and different things that are covered in the topic of salah. First, before we start the actual salah, we gotta cover a few a few things regarding the salah itself before the actual salah starts. So when it comes to any ibadah, there is what we call shurut, and then there is arkan, and then there is wajibat. Shurut are conditions, which means that you must have these conditions applied and fulfilled before the ibadah starts in order for your ibadah to be good. And the difference, and I want all of you to pay close attention because we will ask questions at the end, inshallah. And from there we will see how many people are paying attention. Difference between shurut and arkan. Pillars and conditions. Shurut are conditions, arkan are pillars. Arkan, like the pillars of Islam, for example, pillars of Iman, they're called arkan. Ibadahs have arkan as well. Ibadahs also have shurut, which are conditions that, as we mentioned, must apply before the salah or the siyam or the hajj happens. For the shurut of salah, the conditions of salah, they are 9. How many are they? They're 9. Number 1 is Islam, which means that a person that is not Muslim, no matter how many times he prays, his salah will not be accepted. After that you have al-aql, to be sane. If you're insane, if you're crazy, if you're drunk, your salah is not going to be accepted. Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَقْرَبُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى حَتَّى تَعْلَمُوا مَا تَقُولُونَ. O you who believe, do not come close to the prayer while you are drunk. Until you are sober and back to normal, then come and pray. So Islam, al-aql, then they say number 3 is at-tamyiz. At-tamyiz is to be able to differentiate. Differentiate, the ulama say the sin of tamyiz, the age of tamyiz. Some scholars say 4 years old, some say 5, some say 6. Some say when he is able to differentiate between his right hand and his left hand. To know that this is my right hand and this is my left hand. That's considered tamyiz, to differentiate between them two. Until today you have people that are grown adults that don't know left and right, have to use these signs, left and right and so on. So he must know how to differentiate. So for example, if a kid that is 2 years old, he prays, his salah is not going to be accepted. We encourage him to learn how to pray. We pray in front of them so they can learn how to pray and see us pray, but his salah will not be accepted. If he's insane, his salah will not be accepted. If he's a non-Muslim, his salah will not be accepted. Then comes number 4, رَفْعُ الْحَدَثِ الْأَصْغَرُ وَالْأَكْبَرُ, removing all impurities, major and minor. The major impurities is when, I think we all know what major impurities are, where you have to make ghusl for that. And the minor impurities, when you lose your wudu, you pass gas, you use the bathroom, you go to sleep. You pass gas, you use the bathroom, you go to sleep. You're insane. And there's a few others that we discussed in the tahara topic. So by that you have to have wudu. Or if you don't have ghusl, you have to make ghusl, then you make wudu. The question: what if someone woke up in the morning and he's najis? He needs to make ghusl. He looks at the time, and let's just say shuruq time or ishraq time, sunrise is at 7 a.m. He woke up at 6:54 or 6:55 or 6:57. He knows for sure that by the time he makes ghusl and takes a full shower, the time for the salah is going to be gone. In this case, what does he do? Does he make ghusl and then pray? Does he pray without ghusl? What does he do? Nah.
You can pray without ghusl.
Without ghusl, anything or wudu or any of that?
Do the ghusl first, and then even if it's late, do the kafir.
La. Tayammum. This is only time where you make tayammum and not ghusl, is when the time of the salah is going to run out and you have no time. You make tayammum and then you pray your salah and your salah is accepted. And then afterwards you make ghusl. So then you purify yourself from either major or minor impurities. Number 5 is izalatul najasa, removing all impurities from either your clothing or the place that you are praying in. From your clothing and the place that you are praying in. So if you have najasa in your clothes, you have to make sure that you clean it before you pray. If there's najasa in the place that you are praying in, it has to be purified. A very important point, the Prophet ﷺ says, جُعِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ لِي مَسْجِدًا, that all of earth was made for me a place to pray. Which means that every single place on earth, this is very, very important, every place on earth is pure. The street, the grass outside, concrete, you go in McDonald's, you go in airport, you go at your office, it's all pure until or unless proven 100% that this specific place is not pure. You cannot assume or say people walk in with their shoes. It doesn't matter. You cannot say it's the street. I don't know if there's a dog that walked here or he peed here or any of that. No. You must pray. There's a lot of people that delay their salah because they say that there was no place for me to pray, or I don't have my carpet on me. This is all wrong. You have to pray anywhere unless proven 100% that it is impure. Something also more important than that, that you cannot and should not investigate and go on the ground and try to smell the ground or look at it or see if this place is impure. No, you go ahead and pray. For your clothes, there's two scenarios. One scenario is where your clothes has najasa, you know it has najasa. In the salah you pray, you realize while you're sitting down that the najasa you haven't cleaned. What do you do? What do you do?
Continue.
No. You stop your prayer, you wash the najasa, and then you start over again. In the case, the second scenario, where you pray your salah completely, after you're done with the salah, you realize that there was najasa that you did not know about, or you knew about a few hours earlier, and you forgot to clean it, your salah is correct, you don't have to redo it. Get the difference between the two masail? The first one is you knew about it, or you found out during the salah, you have to go clean it. Obviously, if it's a major najasa, a drop of blood does not impurify your salah, nor your thawb. A lot of blood, yes. A lot of urine, yes. Stool of your kids, yes. Anything else that is impure, yes. You find out in the salah, you have to clean it and remove it. You do not continue. If you find out after the salah that it was impure, that either you knew about it and you forgot, or you didn't know about it from the beginning, your salah is correct and you continue. Number 6 is satrul awra. Satrul awra is covering your awra. Now what is the awra for the man and what is the awra for the woman? Raising your hand. Now. For the woman? Yes, for the man, the original awra, this is something very important by the way, the original awra for the man in salah is to cover his entire body. Obviously except for the feet and the hands and whatever, but to a certain extent. Yes, the original definition for the awra for the man is between the belly until the knee. The knee itself is not considered a awra for the man. The knee itself is not considered an awra for the man. Now can he go and pray with a towel around his waist covering his belly and his knees? No. If you notice even in Hajj and Umrah, when you're doing tawaf, how do you wear your izar on the top? How do you wear your ihram? Which hand is out when you're doing tawaf? Your right hand, not left. Your right hand is out while you're doing tawaf. When you go and pray, you have to cover both shoulders, your whole body. Now this is in the case where someone doesn't have clothes, does not have clothes, or he is wearing pants, but his shirt has najasa, he has no time or no way to clean it or remove that najasa at the time being. Then if he prays with that, and mainly for people that don't have clothes, then the companions back then, they didn't have clothes or enough clothing to cover their entire body. So if they cover their belly up to their knees, their salah is accepted. People of today, you have to cover your whole body. You know, without your pants or your thawb, this is for men. Without your pants or your thawb that you're wearing, cannot go below your knees, below your ankles. Cannot go below your ankles. There's a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says in the Sunan, لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم لا يقبل الله صلاة رجل مسبل. Allah will not accept the prayer of a person who is wearing his pants or his thawb below his ankle. There's another hadith that says to not cuff your clothes in prayer. Now in this case, I'm wearing pants, they're tall. One hadith says not cuff it. Another hadith says Allah will not accept my prayer if it is below my ankles. What do I do? The first hadith of it being below your ankle, the ulama say it's haram. You cannot pray with it below your ankle. The second hadith of you cannot cuff your clothes, whether it's your thobe or your shirts, they say it is makruh. And when it comes to haram and makruh, you avoid the haram rather than avoiding the makruh. So in this case, what would you do? Would you pray with your pants low, or would you cuff your pants? You cuff your pants. طيب. For the woman, satr al-awra, during the prayer is her entire body except for what, sisters? Except for what? Hand and the face. Hand and the face. طيب, if she's praying next to men, what do? Aisha radiallahu anha, she stated that during Hajj and Umrah, while they're in the Tawaf or in the Sa'i area, they pray, and they used to wear niqabs. They said that they would lift it up and cover half, just cover their side from the men. But again, it's a very, huge difference of opinions between the scholars. So, as long as your face is uncovered and your hands are uncovered in the salah, your salah, that's good. Something very, very, very important. We just stated, and we agree, that the awrah for the woman in the salah is her whole body except for hands and face. A lot of common mistakes that women have is that their feet are uncovered. You must cover your feet, whether it is with socks or you're wearing a bag that's long enough to cover your entire feet. The socks cannot be those stockings, those very see-through stockings where I can see the color of your feet. They must be thick enough where that I cannot see your feet. Or not me, but I mean yourself, anyone else next to you. That your feet cannot be shown. Something very, very important. That's why I said that this class or this topic is very important, and I'm very grateful and thankful for everyone to come to this to this gathering. We have, mashallah, a very huge crowd. May Allah bless you all, inshallah. Number 7 is a
How about most of us, our pants are below the ankles.
Cuff it up for the salah. By the way, below the ankle, yes, it's true. And that's why today, by the way, you're going to hear a lot of things that you may have not heard before. And that's why usually when I come to topics like this, I stack my car with half of my library at home. In case there is a discussion afterwards, a polite discussion, we can go and bring the hadith and the ayat. And alhamdulillah, Shaykh Khalil has a good library inside. But I come prepared. I literally have to go up and down my stairs 6 times today to carry books and stack it in my car. There are many hadith that talk about this. There's a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim that talk about in general, prayer or no prayer, a man's thobe or pants should not be below the ankle. قال إزار المؤمن إلى أنصاف ساقيه. This was the first hadith. قال ولا حرج ما بين نصف الساق والكعبين. That the original, a believer, a true believer, his thobe should be in the middle of his legs, his shin. And there is no problem with it being up to the shin or between the ankle. Remember, this hadith are in Bukhari, in Muslim, in Sunan Abi Dawud, in Ibn Majah, in Tirmidhi, and so on. Can you please have the little kids go inside the rooms if you guys don't mind? There's another hadith, he says, مَا أَسْفَلَ مِنَ الْكَعْبَيْنِ مِنَ الْإِزَارِ فَفِي النَّارِ. He says, anyone that wears his thobe, talking about men again, that wear their thobe or their pants below the ankle, he said that they will be punished in Jahannam. The woman asked the Prophet of Allah, what about us? We're supposed to cover. قَالِ يُدْخِينَهُ شِبْرًا. That they should wear it a shibr. What's a shibr in English? What's shibr in English? A shibr. Yeah, shibr is the length of my hand. This is a shibr. So they said, تَظْهَرْ أَقْدَامُهُنْ. That people can still see their feet. قَالَ إِذَنْ يُدْخِينَهُ ذِرَاعًا. That they should extend it and wear something long, even if it comes up to the length of an arm, below their legs, to not cover, below their feet, to not show their feet. The third hadith is the worst one. قال من جر ثوبه خيلا لا ينظر الله إليه يوم القيامة ولا يزكيه وله عذاب أليم. Whoever wears his thobe or his pants below his ankle out of arrogance, Allah will not even look at him Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah will not question him Yawm al-Qiyamah, and he will have a very severe punishment. And trust me, wearing your thobe, you don't have to wear it all the way to the middle of your feet. It can be to right above your ankles, as my thobe is. Mine's a little short, but you can keep it right at the ankle. And pants as well. You are able to have pants that are right above your ankle and that don't look odd in case you think they may look odd. And subhanAllah, nowadays it became a fashion. You find that non-Muslims, they're wearing it. It became a fashion that they wear pants above their ankles, and unfortunately, our youth start wearing it above the ankle, not because it's an obligation or a sunnah, as some people like to call it, but because it became a fashion. Back to the topic, قال ستر العورة, we mentioned that the woman should cover their feet as well. Number 7 was دخول الوقت, that the time for the prayer must come in. This was a question that was asked to me earlier after Jum'ah. My brother said that he works at a
Sorry, Imam. How about the socks then?
No, the socks is a different story. The socks is not, we're talking about the pants.
Is it like same material, you're wearing the pants and the socks to be set?
No, the socks have nothing to do with the height. The socks can go all the way up to your knees if you want.
Okay, so the height is
We're talking about the pants specifically. And basically because back then, the kuffar of Quraysh, they used to wear very long robes out of arrogance and out of pride and show that they're rich. Islam brought us and made us be humble. And again, trust me, you can have it literally right at the tip of your ankle, and it will look completely normal. No one will even notice it. And you follow, the obligation the Prophet told us to follow. طيب, دخول الوقت. A brother asked me earlier after Jummah, he said, Shaykh, Dhuhr prayer nowadays comes in at like 11:55, and he starts work at 12. He said, can I pray Dhuhr before 12 o'clock, before 11:55, because I have to be at work, 10 minutes prior. So no, one of the shurut of the prayer is that the time must come in. You cannot pray before the time actually comes in, except in one condition. Who can tell us? If you are combining the prayer, not necessarily travel. Because you can combine if you're traveling, if it's raining, if you are sick, and if there is fear. Other than that, which prayers are combined, or which prayer that you pray before its time? Asr and Isha. Asr with Dhuhr and Isha with Maghrib. That's the combining of the prayer. Fajr, Dhuhr, and Maghrib cannot be prayed before its time whatsoever. Whether you're combining or you're not combining the prayer. So the time of the prayer must come in for your salah to be correct. Then comes number 8, which is istiqbal al-qibla. Facing the qibla. You must face the qibla. If you don't know where the qibla is, you try to use your phone and whatever the case, or you don't have a phone, you try your best to figure it out, and you ask around, they told you this is northeast from America, then you pray that way. If you end up being wrong and you found out afterwards that the qibla is wrong, your salah is correct. What if in my salah, I find out or someone noticed that I'm praying against the qibla? What should I do or what should he do? Yes, he can either tell you, brother, you're not facing the qibla, turn this way. Or he can come and physically move you towards the qibla. I recommend, or I advise, if someone ever were to move you, please remain calm. I tried it before someone hit me. Wallahi. He was very upset, and he thought that I was playing with him. I said, Akhi, this is not the qibla, and he apologized at the end. But you can answer Akhi, turn a little towards the left, a little towards the right, and so on. You find out during the prayer, you yourself must turn away. And there is the ayah in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about changing the qibla, where in the beginning the Islam and Salah was facing the Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine, and then the Prophet, because the Yahud, the Jews used to pray towards the Masjid al-Aqsa, he did not like praying in the same direction as them. So he used to make dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he would look towards the sky and make dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to change the qibla. Allah then revealed to him the verses from Surah Al-Baqarah, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. We notice, O Muhammad, that you are looking towards the sky, you're upset, you're saddened, you want the qibla to be faced a different way, so turn yourself and face the Masjid al-Haram from now on. وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَهُ. And wherever you are, face the Masjid al-Haram. When this ayah was revealed, there was a companion who heard about this ayah and rushed to Masjid al-Qiblatayn in Medina. The masjid where the two qiblas were they prayed in two qiblas in one prayer. It was Asr prayer. The people were facing Masjid al-Aqsa. He walks in and says, "Oh people, I swear to Allah that the Prophet has received ayat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling him to face the Masjid al-Haram." He said that the companions were in ruku', and while they were all in ruku', they all changed the qibla and faced al-Masjid al-Haram. So you must face the Qibla. Last but not least, from the conditions of Salah, which is the 9th condition. And there's a khilaf between the scholars whether it is considered a condition or a pillar. And some of them consider it's both condition and pillar. It is the niyyah, the intention. Prophet says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. All the actions are based upon your intention. And the niyyah is what differentiates between your nafilah prayer, your nafil prayer, and your fard prayer. It differentiates between dhuhr prayer and asr prayer. It differentiates between your 2 rak'ah of Tahiyyat al-Masjid and your fajr prayer. It's all with the intention. The intention is what differentiates between the regular daily affairs, your acts of adah that you do on a regular basis, and your ibadah. For example, your intention is what differentiates between a regular shower and the ghusl. You're both under the shower, you're doing similar acts, but at the end, what differentiates is the niyyah. Why did some scholars consider that the niyyah is a pillar? Remember we said that the conditions are before the ibadah, the pillars are during the ibadah. Condition is before the ibadah, pillar is during the ibadah. The Shafi'i madhab, they say that during the entire prayer, you still must have the intention. You still must have the niyyah in the salah throughout the entire period until you finish. Why is that? Because you are allowed in the 3 madhahib, the Shafi'i, the Maliki, and the Hanbali madhab, to change your niyyah inside the prayer. For example, you come in the salah and the imam is in the last tashahhud, the last rak'ah, the 4th rak'ah, sitting down doing tashahhud, about to say salam. You walked in, you don't know if they are in the 2nd rak'ah, the middle of the tashahhud or the last tashahhud. You sat down and you realized afterwards that he said salam alaikum, salam alaikum. Now regularly what you would do is, you would get up and do how many rak'ahs? If it's 4 rak'ahs, right? You are allowed to change your intention right away to a nafil prayer and get up and pray 2 rak'ah nafilah. And after you're done, that's in the case where you know or you think that most likely a new jama'ah will come or more people are coming and you want to pray jama'ah with them and get the word of the jama'ah. Then you can do so. Otherwise, you can get up yourself and continue your 4 rak'ahs and you're good to go. So they say that the niyyah of the prayer itself that you are praying must be there throughout the entire period. If you're praying dhuhr, you cannot change it. If you change it, then your dhuhr prayer is not counting. Whatever intention that you changed it to, you go from there. Also, for example, in Taraweeh, you come in Taraweeh in Ramadan, and it's one of the most basic questions that people, we know, as imams, we get people calls and say, Shaykh, what time is Taraweeh? Because for them, Taraweeh is more important than Isha prayer. And I always give them, and I say, listen, Isha is at 8:30. No, what time is Taraweeh, akhi? Come to Isha and you'll catch Taraweeh. And they still come for Taraweeh. And they're late for Isha, subhanAllah. You come in for Taraweeh, Imam is praying 2 rak'ahs. You can enter Taraweeh with the intention of Isha prayer. And when he is done with his salam with 2 rak'ahs, you would get up and do 2 more rak'ahs and then finish and move on from there. Another way of intention is, let's just say you come to Isha prayer and you did not pray Maghrib. You come to Isha prayer and you did not pray Maghrib. In this case, what do? Do you pray Isha first, then Maghrib? You go to the back, pray Maghrib, and then you come pray Isha? What do?
Just pray Isha.
No, pray Maghrib, بعدين Isha.
Okay, so you pray Maghrib and then Isha. We agree now that you must pray your Salah in order. Maghrib and then Isha. Now how would I pray Maghrib? Because there's a hadith that says, لا صلاة مع صلاة المكتوبة, that if the iqamah for the fard prayer is being called, Fajr, Maghrib, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, the iqamah is called, and the Imam says, Allahu Akbar, if you pray any other prayer, you got to stop your prayer. That if it's a nafilah prayer, you got to stop it and join that salah. If it's a fard prayer, you continue. Now for Maghrib, it's a different situation. Maghrib, you come to Isha prayer, you enter the salah with the Imam. Hanafi madhab, which seems like the majority that are Hanaf here, in the Hanafi madhab is the only Imam of the 4 Imams that does not view that you are allowed to have a different intention from the actual prayer itself. Which is incorrect to a certain extent, because there's a hadith in Bukhari and in Tirmidhi where Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he said that he would pray Isha with the Prophet ﷺ and then would go back to his tribe, to his village, and lead them in Isha. Now you can't pray a fard prayer twice. So the first time he prayed is considered fard. What's the second Isha that he prayed? What is it considered? Nafil. So now he is praying as an imam with the intention of nafila. The people behind him are praying with the intention of Isha, of Fard. So it's okay. And now something very important, guys, that when it comes to fiqh, let's please try to keep it, cool and smooth. It's fiqh. Fiqh means that there's the topic is open for discussion, open for difference of opinions. People shouldn't get offended or too personal about why he chose this opinion or why he said my imam is wrong. All four imams are not perfect or correct in all their madhab. They all have here and there, they did their own ijtihad, they tried their best. But there's only one haqq, there's only one truth. From the four opinions, if there's four different opinions, there's only one that is correct. Which one, who determines that? We will find that out later on, inshallah. Or if you are a strong student of knowledge, and you get to know the ahadith and the ayat, and which hadith this imam chose, and which hadith this imam chose, and so on, you'll be able to differentiate and figure out which opinion is stronger. طيب. I enter Maghrib, Isha, with the intention of Maghrib. Now Isha is 4 rak'ahs. Maghrib is 3. And why did I mention this example? Because for Asr and Dhuhr, it's the same. There's 4 rak'ahs here, 4 rak'ahs here. You can enter Asr with the intention of Dhuhr, pray 4 with the Imam. Imam finishes, you move on, and you pray your own Asr. Or you wait for someone to come pray Asr with you. Maghrib specifically because you got 2 in Maghrib. You got 3, in Maghrib, and 4 in Isha. You enter Isha with the intention of Maghrib. Now the Imam, when he stands up for the 4th rak'ah, he stands up for the 4th rak'ah. Maghrib is only 3 rak'ahs. What do you do in this case? What do you do in this case?
You continue with him.
One says you continue, one says tahdis. Tahdis is that you remain sitting. What else? Huh? You khalif al-imam, and what does he do?
You sit down, you sit down.
That's habs. That's one opinion. What else? And Dr. Hadim said to continue with the imam. Any other answer? There's 2 ways of doing it. Number 1, you do not continue with the imam because you are not allowed to increase intentionally or knowingly an extra rak'ah or decrease a rak'ah from your prayer. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One opinion of the scholars say that you remain sitting down while he stands up, does his 4th rak'ah, comes back down, his tashahhud, and then you guys do salam together. Another opinion that I follow, and I think it's a very strong opinion of the scholars, is you sit down, right, when he gets up. You do your own tashahhud. You do salam. You separate yourself from the jama'ah. You do salam, and you get up, you do your salam while he's on his 4th rak'ah. And you get up and catch the 4th rak'ah with the imam, which counts the 1st rak'ah for you in Isha. Where when he finishes, how many do you have left? 3. Does that make sense? So both ways are correct. You can sit down, remain sitting down, you wait for him to come back down, you do salam together, or you remain sitting down. Why I say that it's better? Because if you remain sitting down, you do your own tashahhud, you finish salam alaikum, and you get up and catch the 4th rak'ah with him, which is your first, you get the ajr of 2 jama'ahs, the ajr of Maghrib in jama'ah, and the ajr of Isha in jama'ah. And by the way, catching the jama'ah, the scholars agree and say that as long as you catch the imam before he says salam, you get the ajr of jama'ah. Not necessarily before ruku'. Before ruku' you catch the rak'ah. But the jama'ah itself, as long as you catch the imam before saying salam, you get the ajr of jama'ah. Why I mention this? Because a lot of people, they come, the imam is in the last tashahhud, then what does he do? He comes and he waits standing up for the imam to finish. And when the imam is done, he goes and prays by himself. No. The Prophet says, وَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَأَتِمُّ. You go ahead and pray. And whatever you caught, you continue from there. You catch the salam, you go do 4 rak'ahs or 3, whatever salah it is, or and you move on from there. طيب. So now we said that is the intention, which is the 9th condition of salah. Then we have what we call the arkan. Once again, conditions are before the salah. They must be applied before the salah. How many are they? There are 9. And the arkan are during the ibadah. During the ibadah or after the ibadah starts. The arkan for salah are 14. So the shurut, the conditions, that's why such classes usually need people to take notes. But it's inshallah khair. I assume that you guys have very strong memory, inshallah. So The arkan, the pillars of the salah are 14. Number 1, the very first pillar is al-qiyam, is to stand up. To pray the salah standing up, unless you are unable with a legitimate Islamic excuse to not pray standing up. You're sick, or you are on a plane, you're on a train, where you are not able to stand up. Other than that, you must stand up. And we get this question a lot from my dear beloved taxi drivers. Sheikh, I drive Uber all day long. Can I pray while I'm sitting down in the car? Wallahi, it would be even funnier than that. We had a question where my brother said, can I pray while I'm driving the car? Wallahi, no. And remember earlier in the khutbah, I mentioned that you will find any fatwa that you want, trust me. And there were scholars, or a scholar that I personally heard of, which is one of my teachers. He had someone ask him before in front of me, he said, Sheikh, I drive Uber, and he was like, there was this one time where I picked up a ride right when Asr was called. When Maghrib was called. The adhan from Maghrib. And I picked up a ride and it was a 2-hour drive due to traffic and so on. And I can't stop the car and tell the customer to wait. And if I wait, the salah time is going to end. What do I do? The sheikh, for that specific reason, I disagree 100% and I will never give that fatwa. But he did tell him, in that case, pray while you're driving your car. I don't know how he's going to do it. I hope he stays safe and doesn't get into an accident. I hope that the client doesn't video him and put it on YouTube and say that our driver is moving his head up and down and left and right. All that would happen nowadays. But khalas, if you're in that case, it's a darura. You really can't do much about it. So you pray after you drop off your customer. But you must be able to pray standing up. That is for which prayer, ya jama'ah? For the fard prayer. For the nafila prayer, if you're healthy, if you're young, if you're good, whatever the case may be, you are allowed to pray your entire nafil prayer sitting down. To pray your entire nafil prayer sitting down. From the start towards the end. You can pray it sitting down by starting off with takbir, Allahu Akbar. Then you sit down. As Aisha mentioned, the Prophet when he prayed Qiyamul Layl, because it was a long prayer, he would start off with takbirah, Allahu Akbar, while standing up. He would read al-Fatiha, and then when he would start the surah afterwards, he would sit down, read a very long surah, sometimes the entire Baqarah, sometimes the Baqarah, Al-Imran, Al-Imran, and Al-Nisa, and so on. And then before ruku', you can stand back up, finish a few ayat, and then go to ruku'. That is for the nafila prayer. Another very important matter, when it comes to nafila prayers, or people that are sitting down, how do I pray a nafila prayer sitting down? A lot of people, I've noticed, and this is how they see people praying it, they assume that when you are praying your nafila praying sitting down, you either put your hands right here, or on your chest, and then when you go to ruku', you bend down halfway, and then you go to sujood, you go down all the way. And some people, when they go to sujood, they go and put their hands like this in mid-air. I'm not sure if this can see me or not. All of this is incorrect. When it comes to praying sitting down, you either put your hands on your laps right here, or on your chest. And for ruku' and sujood, the only thing that you move is your head. Hadith is in Sunan al-Tirmidhi and Abu Dawud, that you move your head for ruku' a little bit down, and for sujood, more down. That's it. You don't move your back halfway, all the way, hands like this. What people do, you don't do that. You only move your head only, a little bit for ruku', and more down for sujood. That's it. That's even a rahmah and easier for people to do so. People have back pains or whatever the case may be, they cannot go down, but it's not because they can or cannot, it's how the Prophet taught us how to do it. To only move your head, a little bit for ruku' and a little bit and more down for sujood. So the first pillar of salah is qiyam. What about salat al-witr? Yes, witr is a nafila prayer. The only prayers that you have to pray standing up when you are able to stand up is the fard prayers, the 5 prayers. Any other prayer you pray sitting down. What about 8 prayer? What 8 prayer is called? Same way. Yes. So sitting down, whether it's fard or nafil, it's still the same way. You only move your neck. You neither put your hands right here on your laps, or you put it on your chest. That's it. Only thing that moves down is your neck, down to the little bit for ruku' and more down for sujood. But for Salatul Eid, it is a wajib prayer to the point where the Prophet told the Sahaba in Bukhari and Muslim that even the women that they are on their menstrual cycle, that they should come and attend the khutbah, but not the prayer. They don't pray with the jama'ah, but they listen to the khutbah. And he commanded all men and women that are normal to come and pray Salatul Eid. So Salatul Eid is what you pray standing up unless you are unable to pray standing up. Number 2, the second pillar of Salah is Takbirat al-Ihram. Is Takbirat al-Ihram. Now, pay close attention guys. Takbirat al-Ihram is the verbal saying of Allahu Akbar. It has nothing to do at this point with raising your hands. We're going to get to raising your hands later. So technically speaking, if someone starts the Salah and puts his hands like this and says Allahu Akbar without raising his hands, even though in the form of that raising your hand for Takbirat al-Ihram is a wajib, you must. The difference is afterwards for ruku', come back from ruku' and so on. But for Takbirat al-Ihram, it's a wajib. We'll get to that later when we talk about wajibat al-Salah. You raise your hand. But Takbirat al-Ihram is the verbal saying of Allahu Akbar. The third pillar is Qira'at al-Fatiha. Reading al-Fatiha, the Prophet said, لا صلاة إلا بفاتحة الكتاب. Your salah will not be accepted unless you read the Fatiha of Kitab. And that is for all 4 rak'at, or all 3 rak'at, or all 2 rak'at. You have to learn Fatiha in every single rak'at. طيب, what if I'm a Muslim? What if I just, I don't memorize the Fatiha? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do if someone doesn't know the Fatiha, or someone that converted to Islam just right before Jum'ah and joined us for Jum'ah? What does he do? Or forget him. Anyone, that's a Muslim that doesn't know the Fatiha. How does he pray? Does he wait until he memorizes? If you're by yourself, if you're praying at home. If you don't know the Fatiha, what does he memorize?
You have to pray. You have to pray number 1.
Read what? لا. Then what if he doesn't have a book to read from? Because our new converts, when they come to Islam, what do we usually give them? An English translated Quran, right? He's not going to read, all praise due to Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious, in the Fatiha in English. So how does he pray, or how does someone that does not know the Fatiha memorize the Fatiha? Huh? Can he read?
Can he read?
Huh?
Can he read?
Can he read? What if he can't read? Guys, it's logical. Non-Muslims, Americans, they convert to Islam all week.
Can they read English?
He can't read it. In a full prayer, you cannot speak English. In a prayer, you cannot speak English. There's a difference of opinion between the scholars, whether in sujood, you can make dua in English or not. The difference between the scholars. I personally I don't approve of it, but there are scholars that say if you want to make dua in English and sujood because you don't know Arabic, then you can. But the actual qira'ah has to be in Arabic. So what does he do? Yes.
You just stay quiet and just follow the prayer.
If he's by himself at home.
Still stay quiet and just pretend that.
لا.
He doesn't know nothing, because if he doesn't know to read Al-Fatiha, it doesn't mean to make any movement, so he doesn't know nothing.
لا. نعم.
Make the speed
بارك الله فيك. Prophet says in a hadith, if he doesn't know Al-Fatiha, he replaces it with tasbih. Subhanallah, 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 Subhanallah. Or Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah for the entire prayer. This Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Sami Allah, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah. Now if he doesn't memorize that, then that's miskeen. What else can you do? It's just literally a 2-word sentence that you can memorize right at the spot. طيب. Number 4, the 4th pillar is you finish Al-Fatiha. Because technically, if you read Al-Fatiha only, you don't have to read another surah. You can, it's a sunnah, it's recommended, but you don't have to. If you read Al-Fatiha only, then your rak'ah is valid. The 4th pillar is ruku'. To go to ruku'. Now when it comes to ruku', the ruku' as we know is a 90-degree angle ruku', unless you really and sincerely cannot go down that long or that far. But we see youth today, we see people that are extremely healthy, that can play sports, that can do a lot of things. But the ruku' is a good, like up to here. and he gets back and he doesn't even fully go down, stand up, and then goes all the way down to the bottom. And the ruku', he says that Prophet says in the hadith that you do not transfer from one pillar to another pillar until you are completely satisfied and you are sure that you are in that state of ruku' or the state of sujood. Now, how do the scholars differentiate that? Some of the scholars say that when you are able to stay in ruku' fully and able to say Subhan Rabbil Azim at least once. At least once. That is considered itmi'nan. Now, of course, you gotta say it 3 times, 2 more times before you get back up. Now, it says when you get back up, then what happens? He says that you do not go to sujood until you are fully standing up. And he mentions until every part of your body is back to its original state. Every part of the body is back to original state. That's where the difference of opinions between the scholars, between the imams, of whether when you come back from ruku', Sami Allahu liman hamida, do I put my hands on my chest right here, or do I leave it down?
Hold your chest.
He says put on your chest.
It doesn't matter.
He says both are correct. Which one? Is it both correct or is it on your chest? On your chest. And you? He says leave it down. So now we have 2 different opinions. Now subhanAllah, all of this is based on one hadith. And that is why I remember the very first day, June 29th, when I came to this masjid, we talked about this matter of why there's difference of opinions between the scholars. One of the reasons there's difference of opinions between the scholars is because everyone is hard-headed and wants his own opinion. No. It's because sometimes it's the way they understood the hadith. The Prophet said, when you come back from ruku', you don't go down until every part of your body is back to its original state. Now the scholars differentiate between 2 opinions. Some say the original state of the arms on regular basis is in the bottom. Some say the original hands on regular basis is like this, putting it down. Other scholars say no. Say during the actual prayer, during the actual prayer, while we are praying, where is our hand usually at?
On your chest.
On your chest. So that's why it's understood in 2 different ways, and both parties are correct, as you mentioned. This doesn't matter as the scholars consider, as they say, khilaf mu'tabar. Khilaf mu'tabar means that both are correct, and they literally went to the point where they said that this matter cannot be resolved and say this one is correct, this one is wrong, unless the Prophet literally comes and tells us, do it this way. Because he just mentioned a hadith, and it could be understood both ways. Same goes for the next pillar that we're going to go to now is sujood. Now you're going down to sujood. Am I going to go down knees first, and then hands? Or am I going to go down hands first, and then knees? I'm sure I'm going to hear both answers. And both answers are also based on one hadith. The Prophet says, when you go down to sujood, do not go down like the camel goes down. Who's seen a camel before go down? How does a camel go down?
The knees goes first.
We'll disregard the knees or the hands. Let's just say, he has 4 legs, right? Or which one goes down first, the front part or the back part? Who said back part? You haven't seen a camel before? The front part go down first, and then the back ones. So because the camel, appearance-wise, the front part go down first, and we're told not to go like the camel goes down, that would mean that we shouldn't go down hands first, rather go knees first. Now scientifically proven, go ask any animal doctors. For the camel himself, the front part of the camel that he goes on first are actually his knees. The camel is the only creation. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Haven't you seen how the camels have been created? The camel is the only animal that the front part of the camel are actually his knees, and his hands are the back ones. So typically speaking, the camel goes down on his knees first, then his hands. Disregard what the appearance is. That's why the scholar said, because he goes on the knees, we're not going to go down knees first, we're going to go down hands first. Once again, it's one of those topics where you cannot say this or that. Both are correct. So that is the 6th pillar, which is going down to sujood. And amongst the 6th pillar of going down to sujood is that you go down on all 6 parts. What are the 6 parts that you have to go down to sujood? Both hands, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your 2 legs, 5 and 6. and then your nose and your head is considered 1, which is 7. Another matter, going down to sujood. When you go down to sujood, the Prophet says, إذا سجد أحدكم فلا يبسط ذراعيه كما يبسط الكلب كبسط الكلب. Like you do not put your elbows all the way on the ground. Your elbows have to be up. I don't know if you guys all can see, but I'm going to try my best. Your elbows have to be up completely, and they cannot be on the ground. Now, when you are in a jama'ah, your hands are going to be close to you like this. When you're by yourself, you open your hands like this. The companions mentioned that Prophet would open his hands to the point where we can see his armpits. And there's another narration that said that even a baby could crawl under his hands. That's the first part of the sujood. Your hands either open when you are by yourself or close like this when you are in a jama'ah to not disturb the others. Feet. Feet-wise, when you go down to sujood, how should your feet be? On your toes. Now, should they be apart or together? And by the way, got something very important as well for the prayer. Men and women are to pray exactly the same in every single aspect of the salah. There's no difference between men and women in the salah. Now, the legs in the prayer are yes to be toes up like this, and most importantly, the legs do not be separated. They have to be close together like this. Close together like this. Not separated and not up in the air. And when I say up in the air, trust me, there are a lot of people that have their legs up in the air during the salah. So they both have to be on the ground and connected together. Same thing, the prayer for the women and men are exactly the same in the entire salah. In the entire salah. I know how in the, some people used to say that for the sujood, the man should extend his body like this, and the woman should keep her body all the way close. That's incorrect. The prayer for both are exactly the same for men and women. طيب. The seventh pillar of your thighs and the back of your leg cannot be connected together. They have to be apart. The seventh pillar of salah is coming back from sujood. And also earlier, from ruku', you got to come back from ruku'. That itself is a pillar. So you can't be in the ruku' like this and then go straight to sujood. You have to come back, and same thing goes for sujood. You have to sit back up. That's another pillar. And this is now another matter that we discussed before. We said, what if the imam is leading the prayer and he is in ruku'? Pay close attention. Imam is in the prayer, he is in ruku' or in sujood. And then he realized that either he didn't have wudu or he just lost his wudu. I specifically mentioned that he is in ruku' or in sujood. Because now when you're standing up, what do you do when you lose your prayer as an imam? What do you do? You pull someone up, right? You can actually move, you pull someone, and then leave. But now I'm in ruku' or sujood. What do I do? That's because I answered him privately before. He knew the answer. Yes. So in for an imam that is in ruku' or sujood, and this also, remember, females also have imam. The difference between the imam and the female is in the same line. Imam in the front is for the men is in the front. So you cannot transfer from pillar to another pillar. Remember, ruku' is a pillar, and back from ruku' is another pillar. You cannot transfer from one pillar to another without wudu. If you do so, your prayer is invalid, and the entire congregation behind you, the prayer is invalid. And if you do the same thing, so what do? I literally call a person's name. I say, Dr. Hatim, finish the salah. Atmin as-salah. Dr. Hatim, he's in the back row. He's all in the back row. He would say, Sami Allahu liman hamida. People will get up with him. After they get up, then I can leave. He would walk between the lines and come up front and take the imam's position. Obviously, you would try your best to choose the one right behind you, or to know, preferably know the person behind you's name if you can. if you don't know anybody's name, you're still new, you can say, Akmil as-salah, finish the prayer. When you say finish the prayer, someone would say, Sami Allahu wa bihamdihi, people will follow him and he will go and finish the salah. Now in the case where people don't know this, never heard of this, which I'm sure a lot of you never heard of this before. In this case, no one knows, what the Imam is saying. The Imam is talking, saying, finish salah, what am I finishing? And no one knows what to do. What do? Look up?
They usually look up, right?
Yeah, but then what happens? What happens afterwards? Usually, if they don't know what to do, and they all end up finishing the salah individually, they're correct. And this happened in Masjid al-Nabawi, in Masjid of the Prophet in Medina, a similar situation. And you can go online and just write Imam Hudayfi, cuts the prayer. Imam Hudayfi, and this caused a huge discussion back when it happened. I think it happened like 4 or 5 years ago. The Imam, he started the salah, Sistaw, istaqim, wa'tadilu, Allahu Akbar. And while he's standing up, he realized he didn't have wudu. And then he tells the people, intadru daqiqa, wait a minute. And then he leaves his place completely and goes. And Imams of the Haram, they have a separate entrance very close to the mihrab, and they can all make wudu if they need to. So Shaykh went, made wudu, and came back, and he finished, and then he did salah all over again, Allahu Akbar, and he started the salah. When that happened, people didn't know what to do. Some people, they waited, and when the Imam came back, they prayed with him. Others, they didn't understand what the Shaykh was saying, and they continued their prayer by themselves. Others waited there, and the Imam comes and says, Allah Akbar again, and reads Al-Fatiha. But I just did Takbir al-Ihram by myself with the Imam. What do I do now? So it was a very big discussion between the people. And the ones who prayed by themselves and continued by themselves, this was correct. Those who cut their prayer when the Imam came back and prayed with him, they're correct, and so on. But these matters actually do happen. And sometimes, as I mentioned, sometimes there are cases where let's say something happens to the Imam. Remember there was a masjid in Ellicott City, when they were praying Maghrib, and they had a 13-year-old brother lead us prayer during Ramadan for Maghrib prayer. He was fasting, dehydrated. He goes to ruku' and falls and passes out. When he passed out, the masjid had about maybe 7 or 8 lines. The whole masjid came to his rescue. And that was wrong. 100% wrong. 1, 2, or 3, 4 people maximum come and take him, while another individual comes by himself and goes and leads the prayer and finishes the salah. Exactly what happened to Umar ibn Khattab when he was stabbed in the prayer. They carried him out, and Abdurrahman ibn Auf led the prayer and they finished the salah. So not everybody, when such case happens, I understand people freak out and they're afraid and they don't know what to do, but in this case, no. Someone comes and leads the prayer. طيب. The 8th pillar of salah is al-jalsa bayna sajdatain, sitting down between the 2 sajdas. The first sajda, Allahu subhanahu wa ta'ala 3 times, Allahu Akbar. What do we say when we get up? Wait, Allahu Akbar, you got up, the jalsa between the 2 sujood, what do you say? Rabbi khili, Allahumma khili, and so on. That itself is a pillar. Number 9 is al-tumanina, tranquility. And as we mentioned earlier, to make sure that you are actually in the state of qiyam, in the state of ruku', in the state of sujood before you move forward. Number 10 is al-tartib, the order. You can't go from qiyam to sujood, from sujood back to ruku'. It has to be in order. That's a pillar of the salah. Number 11 is al-tashahhud al-akhir, the last tashahhud. And which is when you say in the last rak'ah of either fajr or last rak'ah of dhuhr, last rak'ah of isha, and so on. Number 12 is a julus lahu, to sit down while you are making that tashahhud is a 12th pillar. 13th pillar is the salah upon the Prophet ﷺ, because after you finish your last tashahhud, what do you say? وَأَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. And then you say, اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم. That is called the salah upon the Prophet ﷺ, and that itself is a pillar. And then last but not least is, what's the last pillar, guys? Salam. طيب. Now, the wajibat of the prayer. Now, we're going to get to that in the actual book, by the way. We haven't even opened the book yet. It's just an introduction. Is it Isha time? Oh, inshallah, I didn't notice. طيب. Huh?
Pray like 8 o'clock.
We can pray 8 o'clock, that's okay with you guys. We can pray 8 o'clock inshallah, and if by 8 o'clock we don't finish, we will see what the audience wants inshallah from there. And then comes the wajibat of the prayer. Remember there is shurut. Who can tell what a shart is? What is shurut? Condition. What is different between shurut and arkan? What's before? What's after? Yes, before is conditions, during is arkan. Now there's the wajibat. Now remember, the arkan and the conditions. If one of them is absent or missing, your entire salah does not count. And you cannot make up a rukun nor a condition with sujood of sahw. That only happens to the wajibat, to the wajib of the prayers. Now if you accidentally forget a rak'ah, which is, the rak'ah itself is a pillar, you accidentally forget it, you're praying Isha, you do 3 rak'ahs and you're sitting down, you say subhanallah, you stand back up, you bring the 4th rak'ah. In this case, yes, you brought the 4th rak'ah, and then you do sujood sahw. The wajibats are the ones where they can be fixed with sujood sahw. Number 1, the first wajib of the wajibat of salah are the takbirat. The takbirat of salah. Takbirat is when you say Allahu Akbar to start the salah, takbirat al-ihram. Allahu Akbar to go to ruku'. Sami Allahu min hamdihi back from ruku'. Allahu Akbar to sujood. Allahu Akbar back from sujood. Allahu Akbar to second sujood. Allahu Akbar to back to qiyam. Those are all wajib that you must do. That you must do. If you don't do it, you have to do sujood sahw. Number 2, remember we said the wajibat are 8. So pillars are, conditions are how much? 9. The arkan are how much? 14. And the wajibat are 8. So the first one is the takbirat, all the takbirat. The second one is Sami Allahu liman hamida. The third one is Rabbana wa lakal hamd. When you say Sami Allahu liman hamida, you must say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Now the extra, ربنا ولك الحمد حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه ملء السماوات وملء الارض وملء ما بينهما وملء ما شاء من شيء بعد اهل الثناء والمجد احق ما قال العبد وكلنا لك عبد اللهم لا مانع لما اعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد. All of this is a sunnah that you can say, and that's why I tell you guys that salah is not just a matter of khalas, it became movements that we do or things that we say continuously without trying to increase to it. Do as much as you can and say as much as you can if possible. طيب, going to ruku', you say Subhan Rabbil Azim, it's a wajib. The wajib is once only. So if you say Subhan Rabbil Azim once, your salah is correct. To do the second and third, it's sunnah, it's nafilah. Also, Subhan Rabbil A'la is the 6th one. If you say it once, you're correct. If you do more, it's better. You don't have to say at 3, you can do 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. You come back from the first sajda, you say, Rabbi aghfir li. That's also a wajib. The 7th one is at-tashahhud al-awwal. The first tashahhud. When you pray 4 rak'ahs or 3 rak'ahs, if you do 2 rak'ahs first and then the first tashahhud, that is a wajib that you must do. If you forget to do it, then you do sujood sahw at the end. Now what if you're praying 2 rak'ahs, maghrib, asr, dhuhr, asr, maghrib, or isha? You're in the second sajda of the second rak'ah. The second sajda of the second rak'ah. When you're getting up, you come back and you sit down and sit the tashahhud, right? How many times do we sometimes forget and we stand all the way up? Happens a lot. If you stand all the way up, whether you are an imam or by yourself, you do not, and you cannot go back down to the tashahhud because khalas, you missed it. If you are midway in the middle, Allahu Akbar, and then you get up like this and you realize that I'm supposed to sit down, you can sit down. The minute you stand up fully, you continue your salah, and after you reach the end of the salam, then you do sujood sahw, which we'll get to that later inshallah at the end of the halaqah. And then the last but not least, the eighth wajib is a julus, sitting down while you are doing the tashahhud, or the julus between the 2 sajdas inshallah. طيب. Let's start with the book. So it's a direction that I wrote to a small introduction, inshallah ta'ala. طيب, a wajib, which we discussed all of them. Shurut, they must be done before the salah. If they are not done, your whole salah is invalid. You must have it before the salah starts. Without it, the salah is invalid. You start salah with no wudu, your salah is invalid. if you start salah without wudu, you realize after the salah that you had no wudu, you have to do your salah all over again. Now, in other cases where you prayed, like we said earlier, you're not facing the proper qibla, you realize after the salah that your qibla was wrong, your salah is correct. Tahara, cleaning your thobe in the place that you're praying in, after you're done, someone comes and says, listen, your thobe is dirty, or this place is dirty, your salah is correct as well. طيب, the Shaykh mentioned that the first point is istiqbal al-qibla. We talked about that. He talked about al-qiyam. We talked about that as well. He then talks about as-salat as-safina, praying in a ship or on a plane. He says it's permissible to pray sitting down in cases like that. But what if I'm in a car? We're traveling, we can't stop, and I want to pray a fard prayer. You're not the one driving, but you want to pray a fard prayer. What do you do? No, for the fard prayer, you're in the car has to be facing the qibla the entire time. The plane and ship is different. The plane and ship, wherever it's facing, you can pray however you're facing. For the nafil prayer in the car, you have to start the prayer facing the qibla. So tell the driver to face the qibla for a second, literally. And then you say Allahu Akbar, and right after you say Allahu Akbar and you start your salah, wherever the car faces, your salah is correct. Hadith of Ibn Umar, in the books of hadith, the Prophet would ride on his camel, pray the nafilah, make sure that it would start facing the qibla. And right after he faces the qibla and he starts the salah, you can, wherever the camel or the horse faces or your car faces, in the nafil prayer only, your salah is correct. In a fard prayer, if you're on a highway and you're facing the qibla for a few miles and you can finish quick, you go pray. The minute he faces against the qibla, your salah is invalid. So you got to be very careful with that. طيب. He then talks about al-jama' bayn al-qiyam wal-qu'ud. We talked about that earlier, between praying, between sitting up and sitting down, or doing both together. We said only that in the nafilah prayer. You can start off standing up, Allahu Akbar, you read al-Fatiha, or even Allahu Akbar, and then you sit down, whatever is permissible, whatever is easy for you. And before ruku', you can get back up, and then go to ruku'. Number 4, he talks about as-salah fi ni'al, praying with your shoes. Now what is the ruling, guys, on praying with your shoes? It's a sunnah, by the way, to sometimes intentionally pray with your shoes. Now we don't say do that in the masjid, but if you're outside, and you're praying in grass, or you're in a picnic, don't take off your shoes. But the sunnah is if you have your shoes on, to not take them off. That's a sunnah. And if you have them off, don't put them on. Does that make sense? طيب. What about those that get to say, Shaykh, he walked with his shoes all over the streets? Again, the same ruling that we talked about earlier, everything on earth is considered pure unless proven that it's impure. So don't go over looking at your shoe and see if it's impure or not. Unless you knew that you stepped on something that is impure, then you don't pray with it. Otherwise, your shoes, no matter where you walked on it, it is considered pure. He then mentioned that the sunnah is to sometimes pray with your shoes on, and sometimes without your shoes. We're talking again outside the masjid. Now, if the masjid, for example, the place that people pray in was, concrete or ceramic or whatever the case may be, or tiles, people can pray with their shoes on. If you're in the airport, you can pray with the shoes on, for example. But in carpet, once again, even in carpet, in the masjid, you are allowed, your salah is correct. You are allowed to put the shoes on, but just to avoid any issues and people getting offended and so on. And not everyone's going to understand the whole concept of your shoes are automatically pure unless proven impure. So you take them off and you come in. And for example, earlier during Jum'ah, I know we had the inspector that came and inspected the fire thing, and he was walking, mashallah, all over the masjid with his shoes on. And people are about to go up and kill him. Guys, leave the guy, it's okay. If it's all proven that his shoes are impure, he can walk. You don't have to, we ask him kindly that it is our, the manners of the masjid, and the Muslim take them off. But I seen him walking with the shoes on right in the middle, not even on the edges. And people are angry and upset. And I said, guys, calm down, let the man walk. Let the man walk, inshallah. Yes. a good question. They said that there's certain new information that they learned today that they did not know before. And trust me, there's a lot more that you will learn today. Does the previous prayers not count? Absolutely not. They all count. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even mentioned this from the companions. The ones that they didn't know right away that the Qibla was changed towards the Masjid al-Haram. And they were still praying towards the Masjid al-Aqsa. And they were concerned, the Prophet of Allah prayed a few days facing the Masjid al-Aqsa, while you guys were praying against the Masjid al-Haram. Allah says in Al-Baqarah, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. Allah will not, waste your iman. And iman in this ayah, with the agreement of all the mufassirin, it means the salah. That's why the term iman, when you go to the subhanAllah, when you learn tafsir, you realize that the Quran uses some terminologies and some words that may regularly mean one thing, but on a specific case it means something else. So iman in this ayah specifically, Allah was referring to the salah. So no, what you did not know in the past, your 100% of your salah is accepted and is correct. طيب. Number 7, he talks about as-salah ala al-mimbar. Praying on the mimbar. The mimbar is this thing that they understand now for the khutbah. Can someone pray there, or a place that is higher, and a stage, for example? They say yes, it's allowed to pray on a stage for the purpose of teaching the audience how to pray. And there's there that Prophet and Umar al-Khattab, he prayed on the mimbar before, and when he would go to sujood, he would come down from the mimbar, do sujood. And then he would get back up to qiyam and stand up on the mimbar and continue his salah, to teach the people how to pray. But obviously people not everyone knows how to pray, and that's something that is unnecessary. But again, the Shaykh mentioned in his book all the scenarios that have crossed your mind and haven't crossed your mind and may not even cross your mind in the future. طيب. Number 8, قال وجوب الصلاة إلى سترة والدنوء منها. It's a wajib, a must, that when you pray, any prayer, there must be a sutra in front of you. A sutra is something, like something that you put in front of where someone does not cross you. A chair, a cone, whatever the case may be, or preferably, obviously, towards the wall. But you must have a sutra when you pray. There's something a lot of people, by the way, do not know, and it happens a lot here in other masajid. You find someone who's praying, for example, Sa'ad, raise your hand. Where Sa'ad is standing, where he's sitting, right? And they want to come to this area, they either end up going all the way up, and they walk this way, or they go behind them. That's not necessary at all. When someone is praying without a sutra, without something in front of him, you only give the place where he puts his head in sujood, and you go on top of that. So if right now the heads of the people are at the black line, and someone's praying on this gray line, whatever, he's praying right there, and he puts his head right here, I don't have to make this huge walk up all the way up to here, or around. Even if he puts his head right here, all I have to do is go in front of where his head is. What is not allowed is to come in between where he stands and where he puts his sujood. In this area, that's where you'll have to stop him with your hand. And they say if he continues and insists, you can literally push him away. Because if he crosses in front of you, and you do not stop him, your salah is invalid. You have to start over again. So that's what Prophet told us in the hadith, to stop him. And if they don't stop, you have to push them away literally, to make sure that they don't cross you. To avoid all of this, the Prophet ﷺ told us that you must pray and have a sutra in front of you, a chair in front of you. Now in the case where you are paying attention, which is the case of a lot of the ummah today, you're praying and you're thinking of something else, and someone walks in front of you and you don't realize, he's the sinful one, not you. There's an exception, of course, with the agreement of all the ulama, exception for the two haramain, Mecca and Medina, because of how many people are there, and the mission is not big enough. You really cannot apply that as much. You try your best to stop them, but if you can't, you can't. If there's an imam praying, you're praying behind the imam, the sutra part applies to the imam only. You can go across the lines however you want, if there is a need to do so. If there's a need to do so. And in Mecca and so on, the imam was leading the prayers, today Shurayn is leading. You can go in front of anyone that, if needed, to reach the place that you need to pray in. Did I cover your question or no?
No, I'm talking about the kids, small kids.
The kids, the scholars differentiate again between the kids, and I was going to get to that right now. They also come back to the point of tamyiz, to be able to differentiate. The kids that are young, that are 2, 3, that really can't differentiate, that don't know much, it's okay if they cross. And they say if you are sitting down, for example, and like this, in tashahhud, and they come crossing, you should still try to stop them from crossing you. But it's not as serious as someone who is older, or can actually, who understands what's right and what's wrong. You have to stop them. You have to stop them now. Yes.
If you have a baby and the baby poops what, and then he comes and sits on your lap.
He says if you have a baby and the baby, he poops on and then sits on your lap, and there's najasa on your clothes, you have to stop your salah and go and remove the najasa. You have to stop, but from the beginning you can try to avoid that and stop them. Now. Yes, if the baby's passing in front of you, as I mentioned, if it's a baby crawling, it's okay, it's fine. You are also allowed to pick them up if they're crying, the entire salah. Pick them up in qiyam, go ruku with them, go to sujood if you can, and so on, in the salah. It's done by the Prophet and the other companions, it's 100% permissible. For the imam, it is also a sunnah, as mentioned in hadith in Sahih Muslim, that if the imam is leading the prayer, and he hears a baby crying, he should shorten the prayer and end it fast, so that the mother or the father can go and attend to this baby, and not extend the salah. If you can, kind of leave the questions for the end, try to write them down, because I'm on page 13. We have 42 pages, and we should be praying in 30 minutes. So let's try. I'm going to try to go very, very fast, inshallah. I will try my best, inshallah. I think towards the end, it's just topics that I've covered in the beginning of the class anyway. The next part is how tall should the sutra be? The sutra that you put in front of you, how tall or how short can it be? There are must say that it has to be the length of your arm, and from your elbow towards the end of your arm. So you can't put like a phone on the ground or a pencil. That's just something like maybe like a water bottle, a regular one, the normal height, it's accepted, but you try not to put those small, tiny bottles in front of you. That's not considered a sutra. So put something tall enough to cover you. Number 11, tahrim as-salah ila al-qubur, that you cannot pray in any place that has a grave in it. No graveyards, nor masajid, mosques that have graveyards in it, a person buried inside of it. And we have that a lot, and it's common overseas, especially in Sudan, I don't know about other countries. Any masjid that has a grave inside of it, the salah is 155% invalid. It does not count whatsoever. Now what do we do in this case? The scholars agree, they say that whoever was first, the second is to be removed. So if there was a grave first and they built a masjid on top of it, the masjid is to be demolished, and not the grave. If the masjid was there first and the grave was buried afterwards, inside the masjid, the body is to be taken out and buried somewhere else. But you cannot pray in any place that has someone buried inside of that masjid. The Shaykh mentioned number 13, he says that it is haram to go between the musalli, the one who's praying, if he has a sutra in front of him. We just mentioned that right now. He said except, the Shaykh here says even if he's in Masjid al-Haram, if he has a sutra in front of him, don't cross it. If he doesn't have a sutra, it's a different story. Try your best to walk as far as possible. If you can't, khalas, there's not much that you can do. And then the Shaykh also mentions that you must, and it's an obligation, as we mentioned, to stop the person from crossing in front of you. We mentioned that. مَا يَقْطَعُ الصَّلَاةِ, we mentioned that as well. Then at-takbirah. At-takbirah bihram, which is the first part of the salah, is takbiratul ihram with raising your hand. Now here's where we get physical, inshallah. I can't really hold the mic. You guys can all hear me, inshallah, right? Takbirah bihram is, we said you raise your hand. We said that the takbir of ihram itself is to say verbally Allahu Akbar. And we agree now on all the madahib that you must raise your hand. Now raising your hand is a common thing that a lot of people do. They raise their hand, they make sure that their thumbs touch their ear. That's incorrect completely. Some people raise their hand all the way up to here. It's also incorrect. Only two ways are correct. One, you raise your hands up to your shoulders right here. The second one is the tip of your fingers are at the level of your earlobe, right here. So up to here, or like this. You don't do this. A lot of people sit there like, they have their hands up like this and they're reading the dua. I don't know what dua they're reading. There's nothing in the sunnah to read a whole dua before you say Allahu Akbar. So again, either up to here, or the tips of your fingers up to your hand. Why the Shaykh named the book the way the Prophet prayed as if you see it is because the companions, when the Prophet told them to pray the same way I pray, or the way you see me pray, they described this prayer in extreme details, to the point where they mentioned that in the Takbir of Ihram, one, your fingers have to be facing up. All of your fingers have to be, you can't have your thumb sideways like this. Your thumb is facing up, and your fingers are not closed together like this. So you have your fingers open like this. You don't close your hands, and you don't have your thumb sideways. All facing up towards the sky, and you do not close your fingers. And then you're going to realize at which point are the fingers actually closed. You raise my hand, Allahu Akbar. Now, of course, we know that there's difference between the scholars of how to hold your hand. Some, the Shafi'is, Hanbalis, and Malikis, they say put it on your chest. The Hanafis, they say put it right here. There's a hadith for both groups. It's not a big of an issue. Both, inshallah, are correct. But the hadith that was narrated by the Prophet himself, he said that أُمِرْنَا نَحْنُ مَعَاشِرَ الْأَنْبِيَاء أَنْ نَضَعْ مَيَامِنَنَا عَلَى مَيَاسِرِنَا عَلَى الصَّدْرِ. That he said, myself and all the previous prophets were commanded while praying, which shows that all the prophets in the past, they all prayed the same way. They all prayed with ruku', with sujood, and so on. Allah says to Ibrahim alayhi salam in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَطَهِرْ بَيْتِ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. That purify my house for those who do ruku' and sujood and tawaf and so on. So, Allahu Akbar, hands, the fingers open like this. The Prophet said that the hadith states that they were told to put their right hand on their left, on their chest. Now, it was narrated once by Ali ibn Abi Talib and other companions that they used to pray with their hands right here towards their belly button. But once again, we should always know and we should always follow the guidance of the Prophet himself. Yes, he told us in another hadith to follow my guidance and the guidance of my companions. But when we follow his companions, when there is no clear guidance from the Sunnah, you follow the actions of the companions. But if you know that the Prophet himself and all the other prophets, they prayed with their hands, and you will not find a hadith that the Prophet himself put his hands below his belly. It was the narration of the companions that did it. And again, inshallah, it's correct, and it's a bit of the ulama, of the Hanafis they follow. And there's something also very important, guys. My brothers and sisters, there's a huge difference between the Hanafi madhab, for example, the Maliki madhab, the Hanbali madhab, and the madhab of Abu Hanifa, and the madhab of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and the madhab of Malik. Who can tell me the difference? Thank you. There is a lot of times where people assume that this opinion is the opinion of that Imam, of Imam Ahmad, for example, or Imam Malik, or Imam Shafi'i, or Abu Hanifa. And then they say that this is the Hanafi madhab, the Maliki madhab, the Shafi'i madhab, but it's not. There were many cases where the Imam himself had an opinion, and his students who also became scholars, and they were the ones that spread his madhab, they disagreed with the Shaykh. And when they went on and proceeded passing on the madhab, they passed on what they themselves assumed was correct, and that the Imam was incorrect in that specific matter. And then it spread and it became known that this is the madhab, the Hanafi madhab, the Shafi'i madhab, but it does not necessarily mean that that is the actual opinion that the Imam himself did. Does that make sense? طيب. We put our hands here or here, both are correct. How do we put our hands? 3 ways. You either put your on the chest and right on top of it like this. You either grab your wrist like this, or you either grab from right here. All are correct. With the hand is sometimes on the chest. When you put your hand either in the middle of your arm, or on the wrist, or on your hand like this. You do not do this. You do not do this. We see people do all of that. And most importantly, you do not leave your hands down. I know the Maliki madhab, not the opinion of Imam Malik himself, that they leave their hands down. Why? Imam Malik rahimahullah was put in prison. And by the way, all 4 Imams were all put in prison before. Imam Malik was beat up in prison so bad in his back that he was filled with scars and blood that he couldn't extend his hands like this to put his hand on his chest. Until his wounds healed, he left his hands down. He couldn't, and if you can't, there's nothing wrong with it. And then spread on from there. But never in any hadith that is sahih or da'if that the Prophet himself put his hands down like this during the prayer. طيب. We did the takbir of ihram, put our hands up here, down here, we read al-Fatiha. Before you read al-Fatiha, comes first dua al-istiftah. By showing a raise of hands. How many of us here know dua al-istiftah? Or who knows what dua al-istiftah is? Or who heard of something called dua al-istiftah? The opening dua for the salah.
You know it.
Then let me ask you guys another question. When you guys say Allah, what do you guys say? Fatiha right away?
No.
Okay, I'm getting like 16 different people. So raise your hands. And I'm sorry. Yes, dua al-istiftah, yes. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. That's right when you say Allahu Akbar. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. وتبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك. There is Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. There is Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khataayaya kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriq wal-maghrib. Allahumma naqqini min khataayaya kama yanqa ath-thawb al-abyad min ad-danas. Allahumma ighsilni min khataayaya kama bil-ma'i wal-thalj. There's 13 different du'as. The most famous one is Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik wa tabaraka ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. Then from the wajibat that you must do is you have to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allah said that Allah mentioned that when you recite the Quran, قال فليستعذ بالله. That you must say A'udhu billahi in all 4 rak'at. Or all 3 rak'at, all 2 rak'ats in front prayer, nafil prayer is the same. You have to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Then read al-Fatiha. I'm going to skip a lot what the Shaykh mentions because he mentions as well from the Sunnah is when you read al-Fatiha, you read ayah by ayah and you stop. It was a Sunnah that he would read Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, and he would stop after every ayah. It is okay if every once in a while to continue the ayat together, or if the ayat, the meanings are connected to read them together. But it's a Sunnah, it's not an obligation. You should read ayah by ayah and then you should stop. Then you finish al-Fatiha, then you go to a surah. Now, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before the beginning of the surah, or if you're in the middle of the surah, you go ahead and read the ayat. You can read 1 ayah, you can read 2 ayat, whatever. There's no limited ayat that you can literally say وَلَضَّالِّينَ آمين Subhanallah Yasin Allahu Akbar. It's correct. Right, you do that in the masjid, most likely you'll be fired tomorrow. But it's halal, it's 100% permissible, there's nothing wrong with it at all. You read the Fatiha, you read the surah, now Allahu Akbar. Remember we said Allahu Akbar, is it a condition, or is it a pillar, or is it a wajib? It's a wajib. Which Allahu Akbar is the pillar? The very first one only. Now, we say Allahu Akbar, we're going to ruku'. Now we have, in the Hanafi madhab, that you don't have to raise your hands, you go down right away. Allahu Akbar, you go to ruku'. In Bukhari, Muslim, and 3 other madahib, the Prophet narrates the hadith, he said that the Prophet in the salah, he would raise his hand 4 times. The first time is takbir al-ihram. The second time is takbir for ruku', Allahu Akbar to ruku'. The third time, Sami Allahu liman hamida. You raise your hand again, put it here or here. And the 4th time is when? Where?
From sujood.
After the tashahhud al-awwal, the first tashahhud. Now I'm sitting down tashahhud. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. 2 ways. I'm sure many of you have never seen it before. You guys may have seen me do it. While you're sitting down, Abdullah ibn Umar narrates that Prophet used to do it, Wow, Sayyidina wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. On the ground, Allahu Akbar, and then you get up. Another way is after you get up, Allahu Akbar, then you raise your hands and you put it back on your chest. Now when you come back from sujood, back to the second rak'ah, or from the third rak'ah to the fourth, and you stand back up, you do not raise your hands. You come back up and down, and you go straight right here. You do not raise your hands. But we raise our hands upon, some madahib and the hadith that are in Bukhari and Muslim. You're Hanafi, you don't raise your hands. You say Allahu Akbar, you go down to ruku'. We said that the ruku' is 90 degrees. The hadith explains that it should be so flat, where that if they poured water on his back, the companions said if they poured water on his back, the water would not fall. Now if you're unable to, for whatever reasons, you're big in size, you have back problems, whatever the case may be, you're old in age, do whatever you can do to the max of your ability. Stay in ruku' until you are comfortable in ruku'. Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. Now, when ruku', how do we stand in ruku'? You go down, first of all, your hands have to be open like this, not like this. Open like this, and you grab on your knees. You grab on your knees like this. All mentioned in the hadith that he would grab on his knees, and his hands were open. Not closed like this, but open like this. Sisters, you guys can see, right? Yes. That's how the hands should be in ruku', not closed like this, but remember you grab on the actual knee. Subhanallah 3 times. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Your body is fully straight up. Not the ruku' that people do when they're in a rush. And they go straight down. That you have to stand right, fully back up. You're back up. What's the first thing that you do when you're back up? Sami Allahu liman hamidah. And at the same time, you raise your hand. There's something else I forgot to mention earlier in the very, very beginning. Takbiratul Ihram while raising your hand. We explained that you raise your hand with your fingers open, facing upright. Now, at which point do I raise my hand? There's 3 ways in the Sunnah. Either together, verbally and hand, like this. Allahu Akbar. Or you say Allah, but then raise your hands, like this. Allahu Akbar. So I said Allahu Akbar first, and then did my hands. Or, you raise your hands first, like this. Allahu Akbar. All clear in the Sunnah. So either together, Allahu Akbar. Before, Allahu Akbar. After, Allahu Akbar. And the same thing goes for the 3 times or the 4 times that you raise your hands. If you are amongst those that raise your hands, go into ruku', come back to ruku', and from the first jump, going back up. We finish ruku', Sami Allahu liman hamidah, same scenario. You say Sami Allahu liman hamidah together, or Sami Allahu liman hamidah, and then you raise your hand, or Sami Allahu liman hamidah. It's clear, right? All 3 scenarios. You raise your hand, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, and then you say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. The wajib part is only Rabbana wa lakal hamd. The extension that I mentioned in the khutbah earlier is, a sunnah that you can extend if you know it, and you get more ajr by saying it. Rabbana wa lakal hamd, your back fully straight, then you have to say takbir, Allahu Akbar, without raising your hands, going down to sujood. Going down to sujood now, when you're on the ground, number 1, your toes, as we mentioned, have to be facing the qibla. Number 1. Number 2, your hands are to be facing the qibla. Now, in the sujood part, that's when your hands are covered, are closed. Remember, the difference is takbir of ihram and any other takbirat, your hands are open like this. In sujood, in ruku', you grab your knee like this, and while he is in sujood, make dua. Ask Allah for whatever it is that that you want. In ruku' and sujood, you cannot recite the Quran unless the dua that you're making is in the Quran. Who can give me an example of the dua in the Quran? By raising your hand, yes. رب اشرح لي صدري. What else? ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة. And so on. that the adhiya are in the Quran. You cannot be in ruku or in sujood reciting Quran. When in sujood, hands covered, facing the ground. In any time of the prayer, while you are in sujood, you're in ruku, or you're standing up, your eyes are not to be closed. Your eyes are not to be closed. I skipped a little part earlier, unfortunately, because I don't have the book on me. I'm going based on what I memorized from the book. Is while you're standing up, where do you look? You look towards the sujood part. When you are in ruku', you look at either two places. Either where you're going to do sujood, or you look at your toes, at the tip of your toes. Both are correct. Both are correct. And I know the book has a lot of details. I'm trying to go fast as much as I can, so I may go back and forth. But in ruku', you look at either where sujood, or at the tip of your toes. While you're standing up, you look either down there, which is a sunnah, and the Maliki madhab, they say you can look forward based on the ayah. And again, at this specific opinion, the Malikis are wrong. They took the ayah verbally, where Allah says, فَوَلِّي وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Allah says to the Prophet, face your face towards the Qibla. So they said because he told them, make sure that you're facing the Qibla, he said that my face physically has to be facing the Kaaba, and up and not down. But the Prophet explains in how to pray, he said that your eyes at all times should be where? In the area where you do sujood, and you do not close your eyes. Once Umar ibn Khattab walked by a man, and he seen him with his eyes closed like this and his head down. While he's praying, Umar told him, oh yeah, hada, oh you, open your eyes and lift up your head up more. Just khushu' is not by closing your eyes and putting your head down like this. It's in your heart. So no matter how much your eyes are closed, whatever the case, or your eyes are open, the khushu' is something that is implemented or is inside the heart. So, you're standing up, you look at the sujood, you're in the ruku', you look at the sujood recommendedly to avoid all different opinions. And then in sujood, you're also looking at the place where you make a sujood at, with your eyes open at all times in the prayer. I come back in the first sajda, Allahu Akbar. Now it is the jalsa part, sitting down. Now when I sit down, there's two ways of sitting down between the two jalsas. The first way, I don't know if the sisters can see me or not. The first way is what they call al-iftirash. Is where you have your foot down like this. Sorry. Can the brothers move a little bit? Your foot down like this, and your other foot is up the way it is. You guys can all see, mostly can see. The other way, which the Prophet used to do more often, is like this. This is between the two sajdas, like this. It's what they call al-iqa'. Is where you sit down like this between the two sajdas. So the first sajda, Allahu Akbar, your legs are together, facing the Qibla. Allahu Akbar. And you're like this or like this. If you can't, then do it however you want to do it. Like this, whatever the case may be. Then you go back to sujood. Now you are... Is anyone hurt? When you are in between the two jalsas, between the two sajdas, you're sitting down, as you mentioned, the way we just explained how to sit down, and you say, what? Rabbi ighfirli, right? While you're doing this, your hands are also to be closed, like this, and the tip of your fingers are at the edge of your knees. So you don't put it like this, and you don't leave it up right here. It has to be at the tip of your knees. We go down to sujood the second time, the same way we explained. Subhan Rabbil A'la 3 times. Make dua if you're by yourself, or the imam takes long, you make dua. Then you come back to qiyam. Come back to qiyam. There is a difference between the scholars. The Prophet did do it, but some of the Sahaba, they mentioned that he did it towards the end of his life when he was getting old. And that's what they call Jalsat al-Istiraha. The Jalsat al-Istiraha, which is, I'm in my second sajda. The way we explained, hands are closed, facing the Qibla towards your ears, your legs are crossed, and then you're getting up. Now there's two ways of getting up. Either you get up straight, like this, and you get up. Jalsat al-Istiraha is when you're getting up, you actually sit down completely like this, and then you get up. And both are correct. And the majority of the companions used to do it towards, towards the end of Islam. They would, before they get up, they would sit down very quickly. Just al-istirah means, a sit down that you do to prepare yourself to getting back up. So if you can't really get yourself back up, straight up like this, and you need some time, then by all means. It's funny how you see little kids nowadays, youth, they're getting up like old people. He puts his leg up like this, and what is this, subhanAllah? And the age that we're talking about is people that are maybe 12, 15, and they're young. And you find people in their 70s that actually get up straight. Wallahi, I've seen it many, many times. And it's very upsetting for me specifically. You sat down, and when you get up, the companions explained that Prophet when he would get up, and either way, you're coming back from sujood, going straight up, or sitting down the way I said you sit down, then you get up, he would stand up depending on his arms, on his hands. In two ways. Either he put his hands like this on the ground flat, and then get up, or with his hands closed and the fingers like this. They even explained, they said, as if he is pressing down on dough. So you put it down like this, depend on it, and then get up. Both are correct. Your hands open, your hands are down. And if you want to end up getting straight up from sujood, all the way up like this, it's still correct, inshallah. We're back to the second rak'ah. You're going to do the same thing as you did in the first rak'ah. Remember, we said when you get back up to the second rak'ah, you're not going to raise your hands. You're going to go straight and put it to your chest, or wherever you put it. And then the sunnah, of course, when it comes to salah, is that the first rak'ah, you recite more than what you recite in the second rak'ah. And the third rak'ah, you would, if you were to recite another surah in the third and fourth rak'ah, which is also permissible, it would also be shorter. So the first rak'ah is longer than the second is longer than the third is longer than the fourth, and so on. Now, prayer-wise, which prayers do we read the most ayat in order? Who knows? Number one, of course, Fajr. You recite the most, it's the longest prayer in length. Now the Prophet used to recite what they call al-Qisar al-Mufassal, which is from Surah Qaf. In the size of the surah from Surah Qaf all the way to Juz Amma. What comes next? Dhuhr prayer. Then Maghrib. Then Asr. Then Isha. So Prophet would pray lengthwise. Fajr, then Dhuhr, then Maghrib, then Asr, then Isha. Other times, it would be Isha longer than Maghrib. But he once read Surah Al-A'raf. Prophet read the whole A'raf in Maghrib prayer. A'raf is a whole juz, 21 pages. That's what we read in a whole night in Tarawih. A whole juz, 21 pages. He read the whole A'raf in Maghrib prayer. Let's see the Imam do it today. He would finish Salah, no one will be behind him. Everyone being on subhanAllah. But it happened and he did it. Other times, because the time between Maghrib and Isha is short, you read some short surahs. Why is Isha usually the shortest prayer? Anyone know? Even though the time for Isha is the longest time between Isha and Fajr, it's longer than between Fajr and Dhuhr. But why is Isha prayer the shortest? No. Because the simple fact of the people are tired, it's been a long day for them, and they need to rest, so the prayer should be very short. And it was narrated in the hadith of Sunan al-Tirmidhi that Mu'adh ibn Jabal, a very famous hadith, when I explained earlier that he would pray behind the Prophet ﷺ, then go to his village and lead them in Isha. One day he goes to his village and leads Isha, وَلَضَّالِينَ آمين, and starts reading Al-Baqarah, and goes so long until almost the end. One of the people behind him, he was very upset, he was a shepherd. He stopped his prayer, went to the back, prayed by himself, and then went home. The companions in the beginning called him a hypocrite. How dare you cut the prayer and go and pray by yourself? And they told Prophet said, call him and ask him. Let me ask him. He called him and told him, why did you leave the prayer? He said, oh Prophet of Allah, I'm a shepherd. I run around sheep, chasing my sheep and goats and camels all day long. Mu'adh, this is not the first time or second time, he comes here every night, leads us and reads very long prayers. And I can't handle it. And what did the Prophet tell him? It's just salah, man, it's more important than your work? No. He yells at Mu'adh, أَفَتَّانٌ أَنْتَ يَا Mu'adh?
Mu'adh, are you trying to cause fitna? Are you trying to cause problems? What is wrong with you? He says, أين أنت من الأعلى والضحى والليل والشمس? Where are you from reciting Surah Al-A'la, Surah Al-Layl, Surah Al-Shams, والضحى? Why didn't you recite those surahs in Isha prayer? So that is the sunnah of reciting in Isha prayer those short surah. طيب. The Shaykh here also mentions, we're going back a few steps, reading Al-Fatiha behind the Imam. I know in the Hanafi madhab, you don't read anything behind the Imam. And in the Shafi'i madhab, you have to read Al-Fatiha, whether the Imam is reciting it out loud or quietly. And then in the Hanbali and Maliki madhab, it is in between. So they say if the Imam is reading a loud prayer, Fajr, Maghrib and Isha, and you can hear Al-Fatiha, and the other surah you don't recite. But when it's silence, you recite. Why is that? We have two hadith. One hadith of the hadith, the Prophet said, لا صلاة إلا بفاتحة الكتاب, that there's no salah unless you read Al-Fatiha. Now the Shafi'is, they took this hadith, literally and verbally, and said, خلاص, you have to read Al-Fatiha in every prayer, by yourself, with the Imam, Fajr, Maghrib, Dhuhr, Asr, whatever, you have to read Al-Fatiha in every rak'ah. The Hanafis said no. Said the Imam is made to be followed, so if he recites for us, خلاص, we're good, we don't have to recite anything. The Malikis and Hanbalis and the Hanbali madhab, we have a rule in fiqh and the principles of fiqh that says al-jam'u awla min al-tarjih. Means using both evidence together is better than choosing one over the other. How do we use both? They said in the silent prayers, because Allah and also the Quran says, إِذَا قُرِيَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُ لَهُ. When the Quran is recited, you remain quiet, you listen. So they said, alright, based on this ayah and this hadith, when the Quran is being recited out loud and we hear it, Fajr, Maghrib and Isha, you don't recite behind the Imam Al-Fatiha. In Dhuhr and Asr prayer, when you don't hear the Imam, you recite Al-Fatiha. Again, it's difference between the four Imams. To be on the safe side and to avoid ikhtilaf, and so that you're not in any way in the gray area, read Al-Fatiha. Read Al-Fatiha, inshallah you'll be good. طيب. He says, correcting the Imam if he makes a mistake. For the men, if there is men and women, and the Imam makes a mistake, whether it is an actual mistake in the physical arkan or in the qira'ah, in the arkan you say subhanallah. In the recitation you fix him. You recite the beginning of the ayah for him, and he will go back and go from there. Or if he's in the middle of an ayah, you correct that spot and he will continue from there. If no one behind the Imam from the men's side knew where the Imam is mistaken in, and there's a sister in the back that knows, how did the sister correct him? She claps. She claps a lot where the Imam, if they are obviously close enough where the Imam can hear them, but if they're upstairs or in that room and I can't hear them, you save yourself to clap. And let us continue. But there are mistakes that the Imam, if he made, does not invalidate the salah. And there are mistakes that invalidate the salah. If the Imam adds a rak'ah, or misses a rak'ah, or misses a sajda, for example, he has to be corrected. But if the Imam makes a mistake in an ayah, and the ayah does not change the meaning of the entire ayah, then you don't have to, and no one knows, it's okay. If you know, you obviously correct him. Sometimes there are mistakes in the qira'ah that change the entire meaning. Especially in the Fatiha. That's why the Prophet explains that when it comes to leading the prayer, who are the ones that should lead? Is it age-wise? Who are the ones that should lead? Not a scholar, no. The best reciter. قال إذا كنتم ثلاثة, if you are three, the Prophet said if you are three, فَلْيُؤَذِّنْ أَحَدُكُمْ وَلْيَؤُمُّكُمْ أَقْرَأُكُمْ لِكِتَابِ اللَّهِ. There are three of you guys, one of you should call the adhan, and the other, the one that should lead is the best reciter. So if we have adults with white beards, and we have someone that's 10 years old, or 8 years old, or 12, by the way, leading the prayer, you don't have to reach the age of puberty. Being an imam, you don't have to reach the age of puberty. If he can read better than these adults, you leave your ego alone. You leave it back home, wherever you came from, and you let this little kid lead the prayer. There are mistakes that are sadly done during the salah that could invalidate the entire salah. Rather, they can take the person out of Islam if you do it intentionally. Example, Surah Al-Fatiha. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, right? If he says, and this is to show you how amazing the Arabic language is, it's one tashkeel. The tashkeel, the fatha, dhamma, kasra, can change the meaning of the whole entire word, or even the entire meaning of this whole surah. If you say, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, what is that? What does أنعمت mean? What is the difference here? أصحاب اللغة العربية. It means you are the one that blessed the people. So the أنعمت عليهم is Allah blessing them, and أنعمت, you're the one that blessing them. Another ayah, Allah says, إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. Allah, those who fear Allah from His servants the most are the scholars. If you say إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء, means that Allah fears His servants. That's kufr, you leave the fold of Islam. If that happens, the salah is invalid. So you cannot let such a mistake happen. You have to correct it. Even if it comes to a point where you heard it later, or you're all in the back, you raise your voice and you correct the person. Another thing is, recommendedly, and usually the ones behind the imam should be the ones that, one, know how to react if something happens to the imam, know how to correct when something goes wrong. But sometimes the imam makes a mistake, especially in Tarawih, and you have a person from that corner, from this side, from there, everyone's yelling, correcting the imam. Imam gets confused and he doesn't know what's going on. So let the ones in the front correct him. If not, then the next line. So if you're all in the back, don't bother raising your voice and correcting the imam. Let the people in the front try first. If no one does, and the imam stops sometimes because he doesn't know how to continue, then you can raise your voice from the back recommendedly and correct the imam. But don't shout from the beginning and correct the imam. Let's stop here real quick. We're actually almost done. Let's stop here for Isha, inshallah. And then after Isha, we'll continue for another 15 minutes. And then we'll open the session for questions and answers. And then we can, people can go home because I don't think there's enough food for this crowd. So inshallah, who can call the adhan? As I mentioned, I've taught this book before in a week-long presentation. And today is in almost 2.5 hours, so I skipped a whole lot of the book, but I mentioned the very important details that we need to know of the very specifics of the salah, inshallah. So now we discussed mainly everything except for how to sit down for the middle tashahhud, and how to sit down for the last tashahhud, and the fingers. And obviously we can show the book we say in both tashahhuds, and then the taslimatayn, the salams. So for the sitting down for the middle tashahhud, it would still be the same way we talked earlier, where you have one foot down and the other foot like this, the regular way that people do it. You know what I mean? It's clear, right? That's for the middle tashahhud, without any doubt. And moving the fingers for both. The first tashahhud and the last tashahhud, the sunnah is to keep the finger moving throughout the entire time. Throughout the entire time. Not only you leave it down, some people have their hands down like this, and then when it comes to Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, they raise their hand. No. The Prophet explained the entire tashahhud. First of all, you close your hand like this, and another hadith like this. Or you keep it closed. Your hand is going to be towards the end of your knee, and your left hand is going to be like in the beginning earlier, where you're going to have the tip of your fingers at the edge of your knees. But the other one is going to be where? Towards the end of your knee. You're going to move your finger, and this is the only part in the salah where you don't look in the sujood area. While you are doing the tashahhud, the sunnah is to look at your finger as it is moving the entire time. You don't move in a circular form, you move it like this continuously throughout the entire tashahhud. And there's no any hadith, and I can, I don't want to say challenge, but I would ask if anyone has a hadith that specifies that when you do Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah like that, you stop and then you move it again. No, you move it the entire time throughout the tashahhud, inshallah. And then you don't put it up and down like this. The hadith says tahreek, you move it Taman, it could be understood differently. Some people can say move it up and down. Some say it's moving like this. But you don't put it in a circular form. The jalsa for the last tashahhud is what could differentiate a little bit from the others. You can sit the regular way that you sit. Want your left leg on the bottom of your bottom and your right leg up like this. Or you can sit where you put the entire left leg on the like this, complete. I don't know how everyone can see. Where you sit, your whole bottom is on the floor, and your left leg would be. I have to do it. Can someone demonstrate that? Yeah, over there. But the man, did you guys see that from the side?
Help this move.
It will be like this. Either like this is one, or like this is two. Both legs are down, or earlier like this. That's for the sisters to see it. I'm sure that you guys all seen it, right? So we'll do one more time for the brothers. Either you have this up like this and this under it, go down like this, or the regular, where you put the left one under yourself and the right one like this. Explained, I think now that covers most everything. And then the salam. Obviously, you start off with the right side. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is the sunnah. And the second one is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah on one side, Assalamu alaikum on the other side is correct. Both are correct, but the sunnah says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah on the second one. Now, with the imam. With the imam, a lot of people, and I know it's also in the Hanafi madhab as well, that you can say the salam, you can start your salam after the imam does his first salam. So just salam alaikum wa rahmatullah. While he's on the second one, they say that you can start doing your first one. I don't usually recommend that because sometimes the imams, the way they say Assalamu alaikum is pretty slow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. By the time he's finished, this brother's already done. I remember a few days ago, we had one of our youth, may Allah preserve him, inshallah. I did my first salam, and obviously I'm facing that way. So when I faced this way to do my second salam, he was already inside the room. How it happened, I have no clue. Wallahi, la ilaha illa. It was one of Sheikh Abi's students rushing to the class. And that's what happens. And I always say, listen, in the salah, do not rush, because at the end of the day, typically you cannot get up or do anything until I'm complete or the imam is completely finished. So why the rush? Wait until the imam does both salams, then you start and do your salam. I think that covers most of the. I think that covers everything except for the tashahhud itself. It says that the tashahhud, the first one you say at-tahiyyatu lillah. والصلوات والطيبات السلام على النبي or السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. And the second one would say اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم. Not اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. No, you say it the same way he said it. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد or في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Both are correct. Again, for the first one, for those who don't know it, this is a very simple and brief one. There's a few different riwayat. التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي or السلام على النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. And there's an extension of أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Then here he talks about the last part of the book. He talks about the qunut, dua al-qunut, and how you pray the witr, and so on. Dua al-witr can be prayed in three different ways. It can be prayed either like Maghrib prayer. That's when you pray in Ramadan. The last 3 rak'ahs where the dua is done. It can be prayed exactly like Maghrib prayer, where you pray 2 rak'ahs, you're down and you do tashahhud, and then you get back up, do the 3rd rak'ah, and then you do the dua. The second way is to do 3 rak'ahs together with only 1 tashahhud. So you go Allahu Akbar, the first rak'ah, go to sujood, 2 sujood, you stand back up. Second rak'ah, you don't sit down, you go back up. Third rak'ah, then you go down and you do the tashahhud. The third way is the way that you do in the Haramain, where you do 2 rak'ahs, then salam, and then 1 rak'ah, and so on. The dua, I know there's different ways of doing the dua of qunut. Some people, in the Hanafi method, they do it quietly, and it is before the ruku', right? Before the ruku'. And then there's other ways, the second way where you go to ruku', you come back from ruku' and you do the dua. I'm going to announce it from now, and I'll announce it in Ramadan again. I personally, I'll be doing, if I'm doing the dua, which I think most likely I'm required to do the dua, I'm going to do the dua out loud after the ruku', not the quiet one. The witr itself, we will change around inshallah in 3 different ways, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. He then talks about the qunut in what they consider, some people do it in Fajr prayer, and others, as a matter of fact, I'm going to skip this matter out of respect for the previous brothers who did it or did not do it before me. So we'll skip this matter, inshallah ta'ala. I think, and then last but not least, he mentions that, of course, it is the sunnah that after you finish your last, and this is the last part inshallah, after you finish your last tashahhud, fil alamin innaka hamidun majid, you do the dua. The ta'awudh from the 4 things, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr, wa adhab al-nar, wa min fitnat al-mahya wal-mamat, wa min fitnat al-masih al-dajjal. It's in the sunnah, to the point where the Hanbali madhab, they say if you don't do it, you have to do sujood sahw. It's an extreme opinion, we don't follow it, but the Prophet used to do it continuously, which is, after you say fil alamin innaka hamidun majid, you say Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr, wa a'udhu bika min adhab al-nar, wa a'udhu bika min fitnati al-mahya wal-mamat, wa a'udhu bika min sharri fitnati al-masih al-dajjal, or a'udhu bika min sharri min fitnati al-masih al-dajjal. Then after that, Prophet said, فَلْيَتَخَيَّرْ مِنَ الدُّعَاءِ مَا شَاءَ. Then he can make whatever dua he wants. And the dua in that specific state is also accepted, by the way. Just like the sujood is also accepted. So if the imam is taking a very long time doing the tashahhud, and you're done very fast, because there are people that can read that, mashallah, that long tashahhud in about a good 15 seconds. How to do it, Allahu A'lam. But if you are amongst those people, I recommend you slow down. If the imam is super slow, and you finish completely, make any dua that you want to make, inshallah. Then assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum, inshallah. This is the very brief conclusion of a salah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if you are to see it. Inshallah, we'll spend the next 10 minutes, inshallah, maybe less, on questions. So are there any questions? Naam, sir.
We talked about saying du'as during prayer. Can they be in English?
He asked about the du'as in the prayer, can they be in English? There's a difference between the scholars who mentioned in this matter, and even the scholars that say you can, they referred it to the salah of nafila. But the fard salah, that you should only speak it in Arabic. If you can't, then just wait after the salah, inshallah, and make it in English. It's different between the scholars, but the majority, I would say maybe 95% of the scholars, they always say, if it comes to that matter, we're making dua in your sujood or in your salah, in different language, it is to be in the nafil prayer, not in the fard prayer. He asked the question, he said, is there a reason why I personally, in Friday prayers, I read Al-A'la and Al-Ghashiyah? Yes, it's a sunnah of the Prophet. In every Jum'ah, he would recite Surah Al-A'la and Al-Ghashiyah during the Jum'ah prayer. And in Fajr prayer, he would always read Surah Al-Sajda and Surah Al-Insan. Now, you have questions? No.
How about the feet? Should we close each other? Is it important or is it...
Absolutely, yes. It's praying in a jama'ah. The question is, he said, when you pray in jama'ah and you're standing in a row, do the feet have to be together? Yes, they do. Prophet would say to the companions, connect your shoulders together and your feet together. Sadly nowadays, people, they may connect the shoulders together but not the feet. And the more you move your feet towards them, the more they move it away. And it happens, wallahi. And people sometimes get offended by it. But the sunnah is to connect the feet, and he used to tell the companions to not leave any gaps for shaitan. Any gap that is there, the shaitan will come and whisper between you guys, so to stay as close as possible. Sometimes you find there's a huge gap and the brother, mashallah, he has his legs this wide. Instead of putting it this wide to connect both legs, come this close to yourself and bring the person from both sides closer to you so that your legs are attached and your shoulders are attached. Now.
You mentioned the salah in the car while traveling during safar.
Now.
Is it only permissible during safar, or like if you are outside doing something and it's time for salah and you're driving, can you do it in the car, or just only when you're safar?
He said I talked about praying in the car during traveling. He said, is it only in traveling or is it at any time? Yes, only in traveling, and even in traveling in a scenario where you cannot get out the car. So if you drive and you can pull out to an exit, you pull out to an exit or a rest area. If you're in a plane, you can't leave, it's a different story. But on a regular basis, a lot of people, and I get this question a lot of times. People say, Sheikh, I don't pray out in public, in the street or next to my car, because I'm afraid someone might shoot me or someone might, harass me. That barely happens. That barely happens. So let's stop making excuses. If you need to pray, if you can pray inside somewhere safe, go ahead. If not, pray next to your car. If you can make it to your house or somewhere safe before the time of the prayer ends, do so. Otherwise, alhamdulillah, I personally have a sajjada, a prayer mat in the back of my car, and not once in my past 15 years in America did I pray out in public or in the airport that I've ever been stopped or questioned. Rather, a very funny story, subhanAllah, a real life story. One time, there was 4 Muslim brothers. They were in the airport in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. They go to the airport and they're sitting down at salah time. You imagine Detroit and Dearborn are right next to each other. Dearborn is the highest population of Arabs / Muslims in America. These 4 brothers are sitting down on a bench next to each other, and they decide to pray Jama'ah, not even individually. Jama'ah, sitting down, and their Imam is sitting down in the middle, and they're doing this back and forth. An officer sees them and comes and asks them, what are you guys doing? They don't answer him because they're praying. When they finish, the officer is a non-Muslim. He says, what were you guys doing? He said, we were praying. He asked, are you guys Muslim? He said, yes. He said, why don't you guys stand up and pray like Muslims? How they stand up? Well, subhanAllah, a non-Muslim teaches how to pray. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَمَن fears Allah, Allah will find a place for him. In Maghrib, what do you do when you join a congregation in the last rak'ah? Can you explain how many sitting positions are there? If you join the Jama'ah in the last rak'ah of Maghrib and you're sitting down, first of all, you have no rak'ahs that are done right now. So technically, you're going to get up, you're going to sit down with them, do the tashahhud with them. And by the way, when you're in that case, you do the full tashahhud as if you are with them. You're going to get up, and you're going to pray 2 rak'ahs, and you're going to sit down, do your first tashahhud, get back up, pray your last rak'ah, and then do the last tashahhud. There's a scenario, by the way, guys, there's a scenario where in one salah, 4 tashahhuds are done. Who can tell me where? And which prayer is that? In one salah, 4 tashahhuds are done. While you guys think about it, let me read the next question. Can you please explain how many sunnah prayers are after and before each fard salah? There is what we call the 12 rak'ah rawatib. Prophet used to always pray, which were 2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr. So we have 2 before Fajr is 2, 4 before Dhuhr is 6, 2 after Dhuhr is 8, 2 after Maghrib is 10, and 2 after Isha. Those he would always used to do. Tayyib? That was the minimum nawafil that he would do. Then you can, and there's another hadith that he says, whoever prays 4 before Dhuhr and 4 after Dhuhr, Allah will distance him from Jahannam. So you can always add and do 4 after Dhuhr. There's a different hadith where he said he recommended sometimes to pray 4 before Asr. But the minimum ones are the 12 that we just mentioned. 2 before Dhuhr, before Fajr, and then 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, 2 after Isha. And then obviously you can add as much as you want. You can pray 2 after Dhuhr, or 2 after, or 4 after Dhuhr. You can pray 2 after Maghrib, you can pray 4 after Maghrib, you can pray 6 after Maghrib. And you can pray after Isha as many as you want. Any prayer that is after Isha is considered Qiyamul Layl or Tahajjud. Any prayer after Isha is considered Qiyamul Layl. Now you cannot pray any nafila prayer after Dhuhr, after Fajr, or after Asr, until sunset or sun rises, unless it is a prayer of what they call Salatul Hajjah, that there's a purpose or a reason of that prayer. Amongst those could be the 12 that we just mentioned. So if you did not pray the 2 before Fajr and you came late to the masjid and the Imam is in Fajr prayer, you pray Fajr with him, you can pray the Fajr afterwards, the 2 rak'ah Fajr after Fajr prayer. If you miss the 4 before Dhuhr prayer, you can make it up if you want to make it up. You can make it up after Asr. You can also pray istikhara after Asr, but there has to be a reason of the salah. A salah, as they describe it, of a purpose. Istikhara, salah of those 12 rak'ahs that you mentioned, but it can't be a random salah of nafil that you just want to do after Asr or after Fajr. Does that make sense? Back to my question, does anyone know the 4 scenarios of 4 tashahuds or no? Salat al-Maghrib. How?
If you can be like do the tashahhud.
Huh?
Do the tashahhud.
Which tashahhud?
You are raised to Salat al-Maghrib. And you came on the tashahhud.
Which tashahhud?
The last one.
No.
If you come to the second.
اسمع. هاي شيء تفضل يا شيخ سوداني.
If you come after the second rak'ah, you get to the second rak'ah and you sit with the first tashahhud with them, and then you sit on the last tashahhud with them, and then you get up, make one rak'ah, and make tashahhud, and then.
Yes, last. So technically, is if you come in the second rak'ah of Maghrib, after he gets up from ruku' of the second rak'ah. So I'm in the second rak'ah of ruku'. When I get up, khalas, the one behind me missed the entire rak'ah. He's going to come and attend with me the first tashahhud. And he still has no rak'ahs that he did. He gets in the first tashahhud. Then we're going to get up for the third rak'ah of the Imam, which is my first rak'ah. I'm going to sit down for the last tashahhud with the Imam, the second tashahhud for me. I just only prayed 1 rak'ah now. Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to get up and pray another rak'ah to make my rak'ahs 2, do the third tashahhud. Stand up, do my third rak'ah of Maghrib, and come back and do the 4th tashahhud. Tayyib. When is the best time to observe Shafa and Witr, I think? Is it after Isha or delayed after Tahajjud? Okay, I'm assuming the question is when is the best time to pray Shafa and Witr? Or the Witr prayer? By the way, the name of Shafa and Witr is wrong for the night prayer. The night prayers are called Witr. Shafa prayer is used for the prayer that is prayed in the morning. I'll explain that in another session, it's very long to explain. But any prayer that is prayed after Isha is called Witr prayer. When is it preferably prayed? Without any doubt, the Witr prayer, the 1 rak'ah, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, there's no doubt that it is always prayed best towards the end of the night, in the third part of the night. That's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the heavens in the dunya and accepts the dua of anyone and accepts the istighfar until anyone that makes istighfar. So, the sunnah is to delay it if you can. If you know that you don't wake up for tahajjud later at night, then you pray before you go to sleep, or right after the Isha. So the first stage is to pray after Isha because you know you're not going to pray anymore. I'm finished with my salahs for the day, I'm clocking out, I'm done until Fajr. That's how people say it sometimes. Another way is, you pray Isha, you go home, before you go to sleep, you pray with it. And I do that personally. Either if I know I'm extremely tired, I pray before I go to sleep, whatever that time is. 9 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., whatever the case may be. Or, if I sleep early and I know I'm going to wake up early, then I wake up around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Fajr is at 6, so 2 I think the adhan. So I have a good 2 hours to do my prayers, my Quran, my witr, all that at the end, which is also good. The witr prayer, yes, the witr prayer can be prayed in 3 different ways. Exactly like the Maghrib, 2, tashahhud, you get back up. It was all done by the Prophet and the companions. Another one is to pray all 3 together with only 1 tashahhud at the end. And the third one is to do 2 salams, and then you stand up and you do the last rak'ah separately. We'll go through this book after we finish, inshallah. It's here. The hadith is here, inshallah.
Can you do witr just for rak'ah?
Absolutely. Witr usually means odd. So the minimum witr is 1, the maximum witr is 11. So that is based on the hadith of Aisha and Bukhari and Muslim. Now. Yes. Go ahead. So the question, he talked about traveling. How long can you do qasr and jama'ah? How long can you shorten your prayers and combine the prayers? The matter of combining and shortening the prayers, my brothers and sisters, is a matter that the scholars, they had 20 different opinions. I want you to imagine, when it comes to combining and shortening the prayers, the scholars had 20 different opinions. Some scholars, they say for 3 days. Some scholars say for 15 days in the Hanafi madhab. Some scholars say if you know you're going to stay longer than 3 days, you don't combine or shorten at all. The opinion I personally follow, that is the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. He says, as long as you are considered a traveler, you combine and shorten for the entire time. Because the combining and shortening the prayer was made for what? For travelers, right? While you're traveling. So if you go to Pakistan, or you go to Sudan, or Morocco, or Egypt, you're visiting there for a whole month. For the people there, even if you used to live there, or you had a house there, you still have the family's house there, your main residence is here. For the people there that you're visiting, you're considered a traveler. For the people here that you left behind, you're still considered a traveler. In that case, the opinion that I follow, and a lot of the ulama actually follow, is that you combine and shorten the entire months, 2 months, as long as you are considered a traveler. Other scholars, they mentioned, they say 3 days maximum, and then you're done. Others say 15 days, it's open. And once again, traveling is not, combining and shortening is not a must that you have to do. It's a rukhsah. You can do it if you need to. You don't have to. When I personally go, for example, overseas for more than 2-3 weeks or maybe a month, I would combine when I need to. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I combine for a whole week straight. Sometimes I don't. However, the matter is open. Whatever kind of the scholars that you follow. Lengthwise, distance-wise, what is considered traveling? Also, the scholars differ. Some say 52 miles. Some say, which is 80 kilometers. Some say 60 miles. Some say 30 miles. Some say 12 miles. Difference of opinions. Again, the same Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah that mentioned this opinion of whatever you consider traveling, he said it is a matter of the distance, what is considered traveling for the people of the city. 52 miles, for example, in the Maliki madhab and other madhab, is considered traveling. I go to Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, about 3-4 times a week. Where I go to Alexandria is about 62 miles to 70 miles. But I don't consider Virginia traveling at all. And I don't think anyone here considers Virginia traveling. So he says what the people of the city consider traveling, then you go ahead and you shorten it. Even if it exceeds the limit. Others say no. You're going to do 52 miles, the minute you get 52 miles, khalas, go ahead and combine. For example, for me, I may consider Mechanicsburg, Philadelphia, I may consider traveling. Other scholars also say traveling is what you have to mentally and physically prepare yourself for. So you gotta actually mentally prepare yourself. I'm traveling tomorrow for a day or two, and you gotta actually pack your stuff and your snacks and food and whatever the case may be. And then last but not least is we said the distance and the time. Yeah, they're both considered as long as you are considered a traveler. Yes, Brother Faisal.
My question is, by all means, this question is going to sound funny about the ankles. Brothers or people over 40, because of our stomachs, we can pull our pants to it's going to be above ankle when I have a breakfast or meal and it's going to slide out. So,
Cuff it up.
We have to have our pants below above the knees to comply.
No. Just cuff it up. Cuff it for the prayer. Literally, how this kid is doing it. Yeah, I personally, the day I heard this hadith, I took about 16 pants, and I have in my closet, alhamdulillah, 37 clothes, my uniform. I took them all to the tailor. I was like, listen, how long do you need to cut these off above my ankle? He said, come back in 2 weeks. I was like, okay. And he shorted it off for me.
Yeah, but you don't have a stomach.
Take it to a tailor. Take it to a tailor and let him cut it from the bottom, inshallah. I'll take y'all 2 more questions, inshallah, and we can end, inshallah. 2 more questions. Now, I mean,
Okay, I'm here.
same question that we asked, we mentioned earlier in the beginning of the class on the conditions of salah, that no matter what time the work starts, if it comes at the time of the prayer, you cannot pray the prayer before the prayer starts. So you wait, and then when you get to work, you go ahead and pray. And honestly, this is personal experience, brothers and sisters. Wallahi, if you're very straightforward with your bosses from the beginning. I wasn't always an imam. You know, before I became an imam, when I first came to America, I worked at McDonald's, I worked at Walmart, I worked at a pharmacy for a year. I worked in many different places, doctor's offices. I moved around before I actually became an imam. And that was something that I was very, very, very strict and straightforward about from the very start. If I need to say I'm going to the bathroom, and I go and pray and come back, I will do so. If I need to take my lunch break that I'm taking, that I have 30 minutes or an hour to go pray Jum'ah, to go pray Dhuhr, whatever the case may be, I'm not going to, sit down and eat my food and go through WhatsApp and Facebook and then say, oh my God, I don't have much time, I got to go pray and then rush myself to go back. So what comes first? He says, can you break your fast before Maghrib? No, you can't break your fast before Maghrib, but for Maghrib, the sunnah, for fasting, the sunnah is to break your fast as soon as possible and to delay your suhoor as late as possible. So sometimes we sit there and it's a minute before the adhan of Maghrib in Ramadan, and sometimes our phones say it's adhan time, the calendar has 3-minute delay. Khalas, at that last 2 minutes or 1 minute, you can break your fast, your fasting is correct. But 10 minutes prior, 15 minutes prior, no. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can, and it's by the way, brothers and sisters also pay attention to this point very, very importantly. For the ones who delay their prayer, we're talking about the fard prayer, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. If you delay your prayer intentionally until the time ends, you cannot make it up. It is a major sin, and between the difference of opinions of the scholars, 2 opinions only. Some of them, and that's the opinion that I follow, you leave the fold of Islam by missing a prayer intentionally. Now, unintentional is if you overslept, if you're in an appointment, in a conference meeting, interview, whatever the case may be, you're driving, or whatever, but you're sitting there watching a game on TV. You're sitting there cooking some food. Salah time comes, it's about to end. When the salah time passes, you cannot even make it up. Fajr prayer specifically, the minute you set your alarm intentionally for 7:30 a.m. to wake up for work or school, and knowing that the Fajr prayer is at 6 o'clock, when you wake up, you cannot pray. You're not allowed to pray, you cannot make it up, and it's not accepted even if you pray. So it's very, very important. The same way, you cannot, as you mentioned, fast. You say, you know what, man, Ramadan this year is in July, it's 18 hours, it's extremely hot, I'm going to hold it off and fast in February. Make it up in February. Your siyam is not accepted. Hajj, say, man, you know what, I can't go to Hajj right now, I'm going to get a visa for Umrah in February and go do the pillars of Hajj. No. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. That the salah has a timing, you have to pray when the time comes, and if the time leaves, and you know, and you are aware that the time came in, and you missed it, you cannot make it up. And if you make it up, it is not accepted. Something very, very important. Now, if you miss it unintentionally, we mentioned a few examples, there could be a few other examples. You're in surgery, you're in a meeting, you can't get out of, you're in a conference, you can't get out of, you're driving, you can't stop, things like that, and you have no option. You overslept. Now you intentionally sleep, as you mentioned, and your alarm is to delay and to wake up for work or school. But not Fajr, when you wake up, don't bother praying. You're not getting the reward for it, or it's not getting accepted at all. Now, Well, it's not okay, but is there a reason why you skipped over? Okay, what time do you finish school? 3 or 4? I'll answer your card after Salah, inshallah. After the class. I'm sure you can find a way for you to pray. How old are you? 9, mashallah. Look at this concern. And then you're a person who's concerned about this prayer and the timing. We do this daily. And we barely even, think about the importance of this matter. May Allah bless you, inshallah. I'll answer you after the session, inshallah. Yes, sir.
Is there something for the catching up when people they late the prayer? Are they
for Jummah prayer, the scholars for Jummah prayer also differ into different opinions. Some say if you miss the khutbah and you catch Dhuhr only, the prayer only, they say because you missed the khutbah and the khutbah replaces the 2 rak'ahs, they say you pray 4. It's a weak opinion. Other scholars say as long as you catch the prayer before the Imam says salam, you only have to pray 2 rak'ahs. Other Imams say if you miss the ruku' of the second rak'ah, you got to pray all 4. But it's different opinions, but I think the strongest of opinions that I personally prefer and follow is if you catch the Imam before the sujood, before the salam, you only pray 2, but that shouldn't be, an excuse for us to say, okay, I can be late. You're sinful for missing the khutbahs and the prayers, and especially the hadith, if you miss 3 khutbahs back to back, Allah will stamp on your heart and will write you amongst the hypocrites, the munafiqeen. It's not a very simple matter, so be cautious and be careful of what you're missing and what you're missing out on. Yes. No, this is also something, thank you very much. Very, very important as well, guys, brothers and sisters. When it comes to reading the Quran, when it comes to making dhikr, and when it comes to praying, no recitation and no dhikr is accepted without your lips moving. So read upon all the scholars. There's no difference on this matter. You cannot read it internally in your heart like this with your mouth closed. You have to physically move your mouth and your lips and recite it verbally, but quietly. Some scholars, when they talk about the quiet prayer and the loud prayer, they define it as the sirr prayer. The quiet one is to recite so low, but you can hear yourself like this. You can hear yourself. And a jahr prayer is where others can hear you. Does that make sense? If you guys just 1 or 2 more questions, because my throat crosses. I've been a football in 2.5 hours. It hurts. So 2 more questions. Let's get sisters. Do you have any questions, sisters? Do sisters have any questions? Fine, brothers, go ahead.
Yeah, for brother and sister, which part of our body to be covered when we pray?
Huh?
For brothers and sisters, which part of our body want to be covered when we're praying? About clothes.
For sisters, they have to cover the entire body except for the face and the hands. It was mentioned including the feet. You have to be unshown throughout the entire prayer, no matter what. For the men, you wear regular clothing, and the pants or the belt above your ankles, but regular clothing. And we said in the case, which I don't think applies in any time of today's time, I don't know, there may be, but in the case where you don't own any clothes, except for something to cover your belly and your knees, then you can pray with that, inshallah.
What about here, those who work?
That's one of the most upsetting things that guys do. The brothers, and the funniest part is when they're wearing belts. And he's wearing a belt when he goes to ruku or sujood, you can see his body or his underwear, or his boxers. And there's no need for the person behind to see that image or that view. And why are you wearing a belt if I can still see your body? So please, for brothers, make sure that when you come, you're fully tightened up and you're fully buckled up, and no part of your body or your back is showing when you are praying. It's not a pleasant view for anybody, trust me. Last question, go ahead. It says mention the hadith of importance of Fajr and Isha at the mosque. That's a good question, and we'll end up inshallah ta'ala. And after we end inshallah with the face-up, we'll come out and give a few words. I'm going to mention 1 or 2 hadith. The Prophet says that the most difficult 2 prayers upon the hypocrites, the munafiqeen, is Fajr and Isha. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, the Sahabi, thank you. He said that during their time, during the time of the companions, he said that we used to consider anybody, from the men of course, not the women. The women are supposed to pray at home. Men, you have to come to the masjid unless you have an excuse to not to come to the masjid. He said during their time, anyone that did not come and pray in a jama'ah was considered a munafiq, a very known hypocrite. That's for the people that did not pray in jama'ah back then. The one, of course, if he comes today and sees our Fajr prayer, the whole Muslim will be munafiqeen. But it's sad. So praying in a jama'ah, for the majority of the scholars and the madahib, in the masjid is an obligation on all 5 prayers, unless you are unable to pray for a specific reason. But overall speaking, praying in a jama'ah is a wajib. You have to come and pray in the jama'ah. It's not a matter of when you pray at home and I'm good. No. Otherwise, the masjid should shut down. Imam should go home and people should pray at their house. But the prayer in the jama'ah for the men is an obligation. For a woman, they get more reward. Very important, by the way. The jama'ah prayer for the man is 27 deeds. Praying at home is 1. For the woman, if they pray at home, they get more than what they were to get when they come to the masjid at 27. So it's better for them to pray at home, but they can come and pray. And the Prophet mentioned the hadith, قال لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله, that do not prevent your wives and the women in general, if they want to come to the masjid, do not prevent them from coming. But overall, they should pray at home. This is last question from the sister. They said, what is the reference for socks being obligation for women during salah? The reference for that is the fact that the Prophet mentioned that when the woman prays, she should cover her entire body, except for her hands and her face. Hadith in Bukhari, that the whole body has to be covered except for the body, the face, and the hands. That includes the legs and the feet. So if you don't want to wear socks, make sure that you bring a long enough ibaya that covers up your feet, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, everyone. Subhanallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. We'll learn Brother Faisal, one of the board members, inshallah, speak.
Thank you so much, Brother Yasir, for your wonderful program. And I want to thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. This is probably the best turnout ever we had in the masjid for any program. And for this, like the program, people, please next time bring your friends, family.
Also, what I intend to do, inshallah, is hopefully once a month, we will have a big program like this, inshallah. We will announce for it. And we want as many people to come, inshallah, and people to increase. As he mentioned, this is literally the first time that we've had this much crowd for this program. So inshallah, we will try every month to have a major topic like this. And inshallah, we'll try to also have guest speakers so that you don't get bored of me, to come. And as he mentioned, recommending people, both men and women, to try to bring food to inshallah, serve everybody, inshallah. But, on Fridays, we will have a regular Friday night program after Isha. If you want to come, inshallah, come. But we want to at least have once a month where we have this big of a crowd. And inshallah, even bigger, inshallah ta'ala. See you guys then, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.